from Education Center, Region 12.
Hi, Tracy. I'm doing great. Thanks for letting us have an opportunity to be with you.
Pleasure is all of mine. And then Rochelle Finnick from Taylor ISD, right up the street from me. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So while we have all of you, and thank you so much for taking your time to join us to engage in this very important conversation. I have a couple questions. So I will go around kind of round robin style for the group, ask questions, allow time for response and some presentation of information from the panel. But I'm very excited to get us going. If there are any questions from those who are joining in the group, feel free to raise your hand, or in the chat, feel free to put a question there and I will monitor the chat as our panel is responding to questions. Okay, panel. The first question: what do you think is the biggest challenge for districts who are working to support mental health needs of students? What is the best advice you could give them to focus on first? So I'm going to tee up January. January,
All right.
what do you think the biggest challenge is that school districts are facing right now as we're talking about the needs of students related to mental health? And what is that best advice that you could give them to focus on first?
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation to share my wealth of knowledge. With my background of 23 years in education, I would say definitely the evolution of how mental health has impacting our students and our staff and our community. I think definitely decreasing the stigma of mental health and increasing the capacity for all of those stakeholders, be it the students, the staff, parents, as teachers, and as well as the community. Oftentimes when we discuss mental health needs, we talk about physical health, but when we just, when things are going on in classrooms and in our schools and our communities concerning mental health, there is a stigma that isn't in line with that. And so, of course, decreasing that stigma is paramount to making sure that our students are set up for success. Additionally, making sure the correct resources are in place. Oftentimes, there are a lot of resources out there, but sometimes the resources run out. We have different partnerships within my district of Spring Branch ISD. And what a lot of my staff is saying, that programs that were in place a couple of years ago, funding may have run out, or resources that were in place previously as soon as last year, they have a cap on what those grants may offer or what the funding may be for those organizations. So trying to continuously have an evolution of the resource bank and making sure those toolboxes are set and continuously being filled, because just because something may have worked in the past or an organization may have been available previously, that doesn't mean it's necessarily something that's continuously being funded for 2023. Additionally, I think it's really important that the best thing to do is to make sure students are offered wraparound services so that the entire child is being serviced, not just the academics, because we know that kids are in school to learn, but unfortunately, research shows that if their basic needs aren't being met, their learning is not going to take place. So I think, the evolution of making sure everyone is involved in the child's well-being.
Thank you so much. I love some of the points that you share, decreasing that stigma, increasing capacity, making sure there's consistency among programs. Again, funding dries up. I mean, that's such a challenge, and that programs continuing to evolve. And we really want to make sure that we're focusing around those wraparound services for the whole child. So thank you so much. Jenny, I'm going to toss this question over to you. What do you think is the biggest challenge, and what would be the best advice that you can give them to focus on first?
Okay. One of the primary focuses that I have at our ESC, which covers 12 counties here in the heart of Texas, and I have 77 school districts. I work directly with school counselors and serve them primarily, but also work as a school crisis responder. So when there is an impacting event that happens and the school is affected, which 99% of the cases that I have handled over the last 11 years that I've been with the ESC have had to deal with loss of life. So there's trauma and grief and what that may be like for students, especially if it's the first encounter that they have with that, if it's a classmate or if it's an educator. And we know that whether that crisis happens on campus or off campus, it still impacts the school. The school is its own little family, its own little community and environment. And the direction I'm going to take on this may seem like it's way off base, but I will tell you what I have learned in working directly with students over the years in times of crisis is how connected they are to one another through their technology. So if we were talking about a challenge that I feel like may be something unaddressed, but does have a direct impact, I would have to say it's our gap between our generational understanding of how children use and engage with technology, because we didn't grow up that way. I do interviews with kids and I'll ask them, what does technology mean to you? What does social media mean to you? How or when did you start using it? How were you trained? What are the dangerous things about it, or the ways you protect yourself or keep yourself safe? And in reading and studying and learning more about mental health, that as it correlates to their world now and how they see the world, I think that's still a tremendous gap for us. And I agree with everything that January said just a moment ago, because it's so intertwined with how our students' needs are not being met, or they're experiencing things that are so overwhelming. But in looking at how rapidly technology has had a positive and sometimes negative impact on students, I still think we're very behind in that, because we know our children are very dependent, and we've got to find better ways to connect and listen to them and hear what they have to say about what life is like through that technology lens. So I'm very focused on the behavioral and impact part of that on their mental health and physical health. But I think we're missing a lot by not diving deeper into how technology is impacting youth.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, I what I heard you say was really, when we're thinking about in terms of a crisis, right? And really thinking about how are kids connected to each other through that utilization of technology, and really as a kind of best advice, right? Reminding folks that there is this connectivity, and that students are very proficient in technology, and there's a gap, right? We didn't grow up with this as a point of connection. So I love that as a piece of advice, is to really look at how are your students using technology, and how are they accessing those services very intentionally, and specifically as it relates to a crisis situation. So thank you so much for that. And then Rochelle, the question to you: what do you think is the biggest challenge, and what is your best advice that you would give to leaders who are with us today to focus on first?
Absolutely. I think both of my colleagues have had great talking points and have actually taken many of the things that I wrote down very quickly. But I think one of the things that I know we're working through in the Central Texas area, and specifically here in Taylor, is we have a lot of newer to education teachers. So because of the teacher shortage that we're experiencing, many of our teachers are coming to us without the knowledge and the skill sets that we either have had the opportunity to teach into them throughout the course of this time, or throughout their time in their higher ed. And so one, I would say taking care of staff. If our staff are not well, they're not able to identify the needs of our kids. And for brand new teachers, like I remember my first year of teaching, and I don't know that I knew up from down most days. And so really taking care of them and their mental health needs. But at the same time, consistently having talking points for staff and training for staff. How do we have these conversations? How do you recognize if there's an issue with a kid, and how do you report that early? I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm asking you to report it to a mental health professional as quickly as possible so that they can have that conversation. I know our legislation has put mental health training in place for all staff, but often all of us are trying to figure out how to make that happen in grand scale. How do we make that happen for an entire staff or an entire district to be trained in mental health first aid when we ourselves don't have enough practitioners to do that effectively before school started? So I would say, like, taking care of our big people is just as important as taking care of our little people, even though our high school kids are not very little most of the time. So that way it really can feel like they can show up as their best self, and they know exactly what tools they need to take care of the needs of their kids.
Rochelle, that is such a great point, and actually segues perfectly into the next question. So the next question really talks about staff mental health. How are you specifically addressing the needs of the adult population in your district? Rochelle, you gave some great examples about making sure that you have these touch points and consistently engaging, with your staff, checking in with them, making sure that they're okay, right? That old saying of, you've got to put your, oxygen mask on first, and then you put it on, who you're helping. So Rochelle, knowing this is the next question, is there anything else that you'd like to add? More kind of specific ways, in Taylor ISD that you're, intentionally connecting with staff, or if there's staff wellness days or events, or what are some other ways you might want to contribute to this question? And thank you for being a perfect segue.
Thank you. I really have given a lot of our autonomy to our staff to really get our principals and our district leaders get to know their campuses and know what works best for them. I think back to, my first couple of years in social emotional learning in a larger district where I was like, we're going to have yoga Wednesdays. And it was very forced and very canned. And like, it didn't get what we needed to get out of it, right? Like, it was great intentioned, but like, if I had forced my husband to do yoga, he would have looked at me like I was crazy. And I think, excuse me, I think some of our teachers felt that same way. So I would say one of the things we're doing is we have 2 teacher mentor touch points a month per campus. So one is very much academic and like instructionally focused, and the other one is actually without campus leaders or I say district leaders, but I myself am there, but I'm there as a non-biased, partisan mental health practitioner, right? So I can come in and ask questions like, how are you? And then follow up with like, no, really, how are you? And get the answer that maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable saying to their principal or to someone else, and really just checking in and having authentic conversations with our staff. The other thing we're doing is being really intentional this year about our calendar. We are not a district that has gone to 4 days a week, but we are a district that at least once a month, we do not have children in the building. I cannot say that staff gets a day off every month, but we at least don't have kids in the building. So we can really set aside solid pieces of time and chunks of time for staff to plan, for staff to look at data and do a lot of the work that we're asking them to do that previously they would have done either outside of their contract time or along with their contract time with all the other things that we're asking them to do. So just getting creative in what that calendar looked like for us was really helpful in making sure staff had realistic expectations for themselves.
Awesome, Rochelle. Thank you so much. I love that. I love those teacher mentor touch points monthly. And I love that conversation where you're asking them, how are you? And you're like, no, really, how are you? I love that question, like, how is your heart? Like, how are you feeling, right? Checking in with them. So thank you for that. January, I'm going to toss it over to you. And then Jenny, I'm coming at you right after. So January, when it comes to staff mental health in your district at Spring Branch, how are you helping to support the adult population?
Well, my role in Spring Branch ISD is that I'm the mental health and crisis counselor. And so within that, I work with students, I work with staff, faculty, as well as parents. And so we as a district do offer the employee assistance program. I did hear that brought up a lot earlier in our summit. And I think that's a wonderful tool because oftentimes people don't want to, you may not necessarily want to have a continuous care from a staff member. There may be things that are topics that are sensitive that you wouldn't want a coworker in essence to know. And so I do often refer out to the employee assistance program because it is confidential and is free throughout the district for all staff. Additionally, we have a great campus-based management process where the campus offers mentorships throughout the campus as far as pairing teachers with other new teachers with seasoned teachers. I think that's really important because, as Rochelle said, the turnover rate in education has been great lately, and the mental health of our staff is important. It's important that they show up every day, and then my role in the district is when crises happen with staff, I go out to service those schools and those teachers. And so I oftentimes employ principals to make sure that there are wellness centers on campus. The campus counselor is the mental health professional on that campus. And so, of course, there's an open door policy with our campus counselors. My role is additionally is to train the counselors so that they're able to be the arms and ears of that campus to offer support for those teachers. And I think that's important that there's someone on the campus that staff can go to, and that's the role as the campus counselors, to offer that support to not only the students and the families, but to our staff as well.
I love that. Thank you for that information. I think you're right. It's so important to utilize. I know our school counselors are incredibly busy, but they're a wealth of knowledge, and they're truly the mental health professionals, on most campuses. And to be able to have that access, teachers to their school counselor is completely invaluable. So thank you, January, for that. And then Jenny, from the region perspective, anything from your working across your 77 school districts, anything intentionally that the region is working on, focusing on around staff mental health?
Absolutely. We, first of all, let me just appreciate my panel. Rochelle and January, you each said things that just totally resonated and struck a chord with me. So I appreciate the flexibility that you said earlier, Rochelle, when you tried a strategy, but you realized a different approach was maybe necessary. And then January, I loved when you said a new teacher with a seasoned teacher. That's exactly how to tap into resources from folks who have so much to give and so much wisdom. So I just want to acknowledge my two panel members here as well. We are seeing, and I really am glad to see the movement of our school leaders understanding the level of stress and burnout that our teachers are at, and starting to back up to say, we've got to do some things different. We're not going to keep them in a very challenging time with challenging things that have happened to all of us. So we are seeing more of our school leaders start to take that wellness very intentionally with their staff. They're providing opportunities for them to have flexibility and really to have decision and choice and empowerment. Sometimes we leave out or forget that when things happen to us that are out of our control, and if we come out of this pandemic era and realize that so much happened that we didn't ask for, it depletes that capability to say, I want to do something that I made the decision for, to try to regain my strength, to regain my resiliency. So through the Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, we've offered wellness trainings that partner with trauma awareness for educators and even our counselors, because they're carrying such a heavy load as well. We're talking about resources through that for gratitude, for mindfulness, for anything from being able to appreciate nature and appreciate the things that are not expensive, but can bring us research-based and evidence-based resilience and start to build us back up from that depletion we suffer through stress and burnout. One thing I even do with my staff here at Region 12, I'm in federal programs, and once a month we get together to do what I call a Thrive in 5, where they do a wellness gauge. The wellness gauge is on a Mentimeter, and they just gauge from a 1 to 5 in certain areas about their workload, about how, if they felt accomplished for the month, if their needs were met in the work setting, if their stress level on a 1 to 5 kind of gives them some idea. Instead of saying yes or no, you can say, well, maybe this was a more stressful month, but last month was not so bad. And then we're doing a longitudinal study of that over the school year just for my internal team. And then the actual Thrive in 5 is taking one corner of wellness or one corner of awareness about something that they may not consider. Maybe it's square breathing, maybe it's overwhelm and how to recognize red flags or blue spaces. I was intrigued to learn that even being near water, whether it's a coastline or a beach or a river, a lake, or in a building where there's a fountain, believe it or not, there's research for how architects employ that strategy to bring calmness. So we talk a lot about our environments and where we go to restore when we're depleted through this kind of stress we all experience. So those things, I think, we're really experiencing an awakening of such in our education system and elsewhere, so we can try to build back up and restore from some very difficult times.
Jenny, thank you so much. I love those very practical ideas and tips, practicing, breathing and identifying some blue spaces on campus, potentially where you can turn that into a peace corner or just somewhere for a moment where you can go and just take a deep breath and kind of begin to center yourself. I know I talk to school districts all over Texas, and I hear many different ways in which they're supporting and being very intentional with helping staff to feel supported, feel engaged, feel connected, because the work that you're doing, that they're doing is so hard every day, but so rewarding and empowering. But I love those very practical kind of takeaway things that the community learning from us today can take away back to their districts. So thank you so much for that. So the third question: what do you see is the number one contributing factor to student stress and mental health challenges that they're facing today? So we're coming we're in this pandemic era, we're COVID and flu are co-circulating now in communities. So that's got to be triggering, right? We're having these triggering events that are currently happening during cold, flu, COVID season. So what are some of those factors that you believe are currently contributing to these levels of stress and the challenges that children are facing? January, I will start with you, and then I will go to Rochelle and then Jenny.
Okay, well, definitely social media. It's a blessing and a curse all at the same time, because we know that it gives out great information and we utilize it to do research and for great things. But unfortunately, I think the access that our kids have through social media and technology, whether it's gaming systems, communicating with strangers, can be a stressor. Bullying, of course, it's no longer back in my day where you may have a conflict with someone at school, but then once you leave school, the drama's gone, right? Or at least it's on pause. Nowadays, kids are communicating 24/7. They're in the office. If you're, I've been a campus counselor for many years previously, and you may be trying to deal with students with conflict, and they're texting each other while they're waiting. Where you're talking to one student, they're texting the other, and things are getting exacerbated, and the problems are increasing. So I definitely think social media has a negative impact on the students. And then there's so many apps that parents, it's almost impossible to wrap our heads around the knowledge of so many apps that our kids have access to. And we know things are hidden in plain sight. And you may think it's a calculator, but it's an app that they're communicating with strangers on. So I always recommend for families, and I do trainings throughout the district on making sure we have something called Parent Use in Spring Branch ISD. And they're in the evening, for usually from 6 to 7 p.m. And that's the way that we disseminate information to our parents and our families. And throughout those, I oftentimes make sure I stress to parents to make sure they're checking their students and their child's technology. Kids want to keep their phones glued to them 24/7, but we have to make sure as a parent, we shut that contact off. There's certain time, take away the phone, put it away in a different room, because oftentimes parents go to sleep, and if that phone is in the room with the student, they're on that phone late at night when the parent is sleeping. So I think it's really important that they realize, and we as a community realize, that the stress is coming from the social media, as well as the contact of internal and external stressors. Parent stress, as somebody mentioned earlier about the expectations of good grades, a 99, a 80 or 85 is no longer a good grade anymore. So that's important that parents are aware these external stressors we're putting on kids, and to know your child. Every child is different. If you have 3 or 4 kids, what once you did with one kid may not work with the other one. So you need to know that child's personality, as well as educators, with the students we come in contact with on a daily basis. It's important that we work collectively to learn each specific student and not treat everything like a one size fit all.
Right. Thank you. Definitely that influence of social media. I've got a 16-year-old daughter, and you better believe it. I am checking that TikTok and Snapchat, every day, checking in there. And again, I trust her, right? But it's the other folks that I don't trust. So, and that's hard because those apps, they change so quickly. And it feels like to me as a parent, new apps pop up all the time. And so just trying to keep up with that. And so kudos to your district to make available some parent education awareness classes to really help parents to understand, what are these and then what are the most current, social media apps that children are accessing and going to. Jenny, what do you think is the number one contributing factor as we're looking at these rising levels of children's mental health and children who are in states of crisis?
Well, I think I'd have to expand and agree, of course, with what January is saying. And based on what I brought to light earlier in the work that I've been doing, and even recently with the Texas School Safety Center and Maureen Molac had a huge contributing piece into the SB 179 David's Law for cyberbullying. It was one of the first pieces of legislation that really tackled something that had such a heavy impact on our youth. So in living in that space and tracking and learning more, and there are even more dangers that students have been exposed to that compromise their mental health and their physical safety. Sextortion is something that has been recently on the rise, and it's something that can happen with such a heavy psychologically crippling effect on children, and because of the fear and shame involved in that, they're not approaching adults, they're not approaching safe individuals who can help them through those things, let alone access to advances. And like you said earlier, we really would be wise to invest in as much time as possible in teaching our youth healthy ways to use their technology. So I think to take it to the next level for my response, I would say having meaningful relationships with trusted adults to help them overcome that trusted adult element is cited in behavioral health, school safety resources from the Department of Homeland Security to the FBI and Secret Service. We've read all of them. That's one of the key elements that is most consistent for keeping students and children safe and keeping our schools safe. When it comes to mental health, because we see that is where there's so much compromise of our young people. So and when I speak to student groups about digital responsibility and safety, and they're just so unaware of how easy it is to be approached or to fall into a trap. And when I talk to the adults and I teach on it, I'll say, in this day and age, the one who has the greater voice that the children will listen to wins. And many times we only have till about the age of 12 or 13, if you think about it, where that plug-in time starts, where there's going to be other influences that children will have to make decisions. Who do I listen to? Who do I pay attention to? What's real? What's not? And very often they can be due to their innocence, so easily duped and so be so vulnerable. So I think on the mental health aspect, from everything from cyberbullying to body image to advances from nefarious sources, those things have been consistently rising with regard to threats to mental health, and then kids not feeling like they have a trusted adult person that they can come to say, something bad's happened. I don't know how to stop it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm ashamed or I'm worried, even though they often have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. They were tricked into what is happening. That to me is like I said, I just don't feel like we're doing enough, and we understand the real depth of that scale, because every kid we know is connected to something. And that, I think, is agreeing with January's response there, what I think is one of the biggest problems.
Thank you, Jenny, so much. And I love that you cited the Texas School Safety Center for some great resources, for districts. A lot of those resources there, I think all of them are no cost to districts. Be able to go on there and gather some resources around some of these topics. Cyberbullying was one that you shared, Jenny. And then what I heard you say around that, children they're scared, right? When they get into these situations and they're too immature, they don't know how to approach or handle a situation that they've gotten themselves in, that they don't feel like they have a trusted adult that they can connect with, out of fear. And then I also hear parents fearful because there's so much unknown, right? There's so much unknown around the world of social media, that parents are like, oh, I don't want to even go there. I don't want to have a conversation about it because I don't know what I don't know. And that's also scary. And so having that trusting relationship, with your child, to even be able to say, look, I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything, but I will help you. I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to be angry. I want you to be safe. I love you. I care for you. We will figure this out together is so important. So thank you, Jenny, for bringing up several of those contributing factors that you're kind of seeing and hearing, from your lens at the region. And then Rochelle, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing, in Taylor ISD around student stress and mental health needs.
Absolutely. I think January and Jenny hit the nail on the head in terms of student personal stress, right? We know that social media and friend relationships have changed in the 5 years that even, kids have been in school at the secondary level. I think if I were to really look at academically, the way we can pinpoint student needs through data can be a very slippery slope if we are not managing that conversation carefully. So, and I'll use my own daughter as an example. She is in a neighboring district, and I received her kindergarten reading assessment. Now, mind you, she is in kindergarten. She was in kindergarten. She is now in first grade. And it was all of the things from her teacher that she was doing wrong. And there was not a single conversation about what she was doing well. Now, mind you, my daughter is like she was an average kindergarten kid, right? But I literally looked at this and I said, like, if I was an everyday parent, all I would have heard were all of the things my kid was behind on. And we have so much data at our hands, and that we can dive down deep into the specific teak a child needs an intervention on, that I think sometimes we forget to talk about all of the things that they're excelling at, and really weighing that conversation with, like, yes, this might be an area in which you need support, but let's also talk about all of the things that you are doing well, or that you're working so hard to even make a small piece of growth. That's why I am so excited to see that we're measuring growth targets in STAR accountability now. While it's not the end game, it is a big deal. But at the end of the day, are we really having strategic conversations with kids and with parents about what they're doing well, and making sure we're really balancing where they need support with where they're still excelling and where they're still doing great work. Because what we also know, is I also oversee alternative education campus, is students are self-medicating because they're dysregulated. They're in a place where they don't know what else to do to help themselves feel better. So they're turning to external sources. And that's never going to get us where we need to, especially with vaping and fentanyl and things that we know that are out there, that kids are curious and they're going to try things. And it just takes one pill to have a crisis counselor on our campuses. And that's never a place we want kids to be. That's never a place that we want students to feel like they have to turn to. And so I think if we look at all of these, all of the reasons that, these lovely ladies have mentioned, like, it's really turning back to, like Jenny said, like hitting the nail on the head with what is that strong connection with a trusting adult that's going to be the catalyst for our kids to really change the story.
Rochelle, thank you so much. I love that you talk about data, and you're right. School districts have a wealth of data, and we love data. Superintendents love data, boards love data, principals love data, counselors, we all love data because it helps us to be intentional in how we're approaching challenges. But I love what you said, is if we could shift the conversation around first talking about the growth, talking about what the child is doing well before we go into that conversation of what are some areas of improvement? What are some areas that they might need to work on a little bit more? I love that. And I'm taking notes, and I'm also making a little mental note for myself too, to make sure that when my daughter comes in the door today, that I'm asking about what she was excited about today, not just, hey, did you turn in your algebra assignment today, but really focusing on some of those positive achievements every single day. And I think that goes, to health data and mental health data, right? And so we all have access to a variety of information that when we're looking to, support students is what lens, right, are we as the adults looking at this data through, and how are we using that data to be able to be very intentional with, whether it's increasing access to resources or services, or how we're going to scaffold and triage, resources and services to students. And we have to be very intentional and careful. Because like you said, it does have some negative impacts when students are self-medicating. And that is a very, very, very real problem that is currently happening, where students are self-medicating and they're getting themselves into trouble very, very quickly. So thank you. Great responses. So as we're getting into the last two questions, so I'm going to start with Jenny on this one, and then I'll go to Rochelle and then January. So Jenny, do you feel parents and school administrators, they have a good understanding of the issues around mental health? And from your lens at the region, how could you support them better, or what do you hear them saying that they need more support on when it comes to having a better kind of global understanding of student, staff, mental health, and well-being?
Well, I think first off, as school personnel, which is everybody in the school environment and our families and parents, we have to have a large degree of trust. We have to trust what's going on in the building that our child is away from, or our student is away from, is going to be healthy and supportive and connective. And it's not fair to speculate or to judge or to have some preconceived idea about that, or base one thing that we see to explain or have some totality of understanding. It takes so much to have a relationship. And I love the village concept, because we have to have relationships with our schools, with our parents, with the families, to support and encourage. And that may be, I love when I know that there's a school or a community where parents can feel welcomed and know that even if there is a struggle, and just as Rochelle was saying earlier about trying to capitalize on the strengths of kids and children. Kids are adults that haven't happened yet. They're still they're trying to get through everything. And even when we were growing up, we had our challenges, or the absence of things that were yet to be invented to have an impact on our lives. But we didn't have perfect backgrounds in children, when we were growing up. So we have to remember our kids are going through those stages in times of need. And if something else external is impacting that we don't automatically jump to a conclusion for how a child's behavior is reflecting what they're trying to deal with. I think that acceptance level is really, really huge. And sometimes it means we as educators have to step back into that lane of being a parent, of being a student ourselves, so we better understand that and we can draw on more empathy, because that goes a long way. I love seeing my adult students now that I had whenever they were younger, where they were in high school, and sometimes they'll come back and they'll say things to me that they remembered that is so far back in my memory, and I'll go, man, you remembered that? And they'll go, oh, we remembered everything that you said, if you shared about yourself or you made a personal connection. Because that's where kids are going to trust us. And when they trust us as people, they're going to believe what we say. And when they believe what we say, then they're going to learn the lessons we have to teach them. And once they learn those lessons, then they will be successful. So it means that we're in the game as people, raising and taking care of people. So I really believe that mantra in the classroom, on the campus, as a leader, there is a train in the background. I do hope you'll forgive that if the microphone's picking it up right now. Too close to the tracks right now, but that's okay. I do think that level of understanding and collegial work together means so much. And I don't think sometimes we are afforded the opportunities to slow down enough in that parent meeting on that campus to think of all the things that could be going on. We just take one behavior, one interaction, one phone call, and then it goes off the tracks and it can get us into a place where there's damage beyond reparation. So I'd love to see more of that interaction. If I can go into a school and I see that parents have been there, parents feel comfortable, there's an event where parents are present and talking to their teachers, school leaders, I know that campus has a degree of success because it means that the community feels as comfortable with the school as a school should feel with the community. So I can't emphasize that bond and relationship enough for the benefit of our kids.
Jenny, thank you. I love that. And what I wrote down is that, district administrators, leaders have to build those trusting relationships with students, with families, through that lens of empathy so that they can be open to learning and that has a positive downstream impact of student success. So I love those messages. And we did not hear the train. So I'm sorry that you're so close to the tracks, but we didn't hear it. And then, Rochelle, open to you. Do you feel parents and school administrators have a good understanding of the issues around mental health? And how could they be more supportive?
I do feel like we are at the tip of the iceberg. I think, like January said, I think we're starting to see the stigma around mental health kind of decreasing a little bit. However, do I still think we have a long way to go? Absolutely. I think the number one thing we can be in terms of being supportive for our kids is as parents not feeling shame if our student has a mental health need. I often use the analogy of physical health. 2 years ago, my son was incredibly ill physically. I did not feel shame because he was ill. However, if someone came to me and said my son was struggling with his mental health, immediately I would think, what did I do wrong as a parent? I didn't do anything wrong to make him sick as an individual, but that's immediately where your head goes. Is there still mom guilt and mom shame around students or your kids being sick? Yes, absolutely. But the level of like extreme, I need to have a conversation. I need to really look at myself internally and think I don't need to carry shame because my child is having a mental health need. I'm going to walk side by side with my child and be the support that they need in order to get the help that they need is the number one thing I think every parent can do is to really realize. And I think social media, like Jenny said, social media can be a detriment, right? We see the highlight reel all over the place. We think no one else is experiencing the things that I'm experiencing with my kids. But what we also forget is behind the camera, all the things are there. And we need to be real and vulnerable and honest with each other and say like, yeah, I'm dealing with the same thing with my kids too. How are you working through it? How can we be supportive of each other and walk this walk together as opposed to thinking no one else is walking the walk that I'm walking with my kids?
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And that is so, so true. We have no problem saying my kid is home sick today with the flu and they're going to be out for the next couple days. But if children are home because they need some mental health days, they're just really struggling and they need that extra social emotional support. We often tell the school, my kid is home sick today with the flu, even when they don't have the flu. It's because there is that stigma and that shame attached to, having and struggling with your mental health. So thank you, Rochelle, for reminding us that, we need to, even though we're at the tip of this iceberg where we're starting to see that stigma, decreasing, but there's still that stigma still exists. And I think the more that we're open as adults and they hear us say, I'm really struggling today, I'm really feeling anxious today, or I'm nervous today. I'm having kind of a really tough day myself. I think we're going to see others start to feel comfortable, doing that more in not only our personal spaces, but also our professional worlds. So thank you for that. And then January, do you feel parents and administration have a good understanding of the issues related to mental health, and how could they be more supportive?
I think they have a little bit of a clue. I don't think there's a good understanding. Oftentimes because school administrators are thinking about test scores, they're thinking about, the data, they're thinking about the numbers, but we all know that a child is not a number. And the fact that mental health, it includes our emotional, our psychological, as well as our social well-being. And it definitely affects how we think. So of course it's going to affect how the student thinks, how they feel, how they act, which ultimately helps determine the level of stress that that individual child will experience and how they'll relate to others and how they'll the choices that they'll make. So it's important that people realize that mental health is important at various stages, not just us as adults, but childhood and adolescent stage is very paramount to what the type of adult that that child will turn out to be, and that over the course of life that their experiences are going to sometimes be impacted by their mental health problems. So whether it's what you're thinking, your mood, or your behavior, all of that could be affected. And so I try to make sure I increase capacity throughout my district and have trainings for families as well as staff, so that they're aware that kids are more than a number. And it's important that we realize that their parents are bringing kids to us the best that they can, the best version of the kid that they have. However, it's important that we all work together collectively to make sure that child is well, not just academically, making sure they pass, make a passing grade, but to make sure collectively that teacher's the first line of defense in that classroom to help see and access that child. And I always challenge, you mentioned, Tracy, having a 16-year-old. I too have a 16-year-old. And when she comes in from school daily, I ask her 2 questions: what went well today and what didn't go well today? And typically that will spark the conversation of sometimes more information than I care to know. But those 2 questions, what went well and what did not go well today, those 2 open-ended questions, because like you said, you typically ask, okay, well, how was your day? And they'll say, oh, it's fine. It was fine. So making sure as a parent, you have that open line of communication. I think that's important, to have check-ins with your kids, have times where you're not interrupted as a parent, where phones are distraction, spouses are maybe a distraction, work's a distraction, but allowing that child to know that they matter and that they're important, and how they're doing is important to us as adults. I think that's vital. Like Jenny said, making sure we build those relationships. And I oftentimes try to reiterate that to parents when they come into my office, when I'm dealing with parents, as well as teachers and administrators. Yeah, there was a behavior that needs a consequence. By all means, give the consequence. However, deeper than that behavior, there was typically something else underlying there. There's some type of trauma that child has experienced, that especially those frequent flyer students that are in the office, the administrator's office all the time. And it's typically like a small percentage of the population that are frequently getting in trouble on campuses. But even with those students, I'm often challenging our administrators and our staff to remind them those kids have typically experienced some type of trauma, and to make sure I train staff to look at things from a trauma-informed lens, so that they know that we're educating not just academically, but emotionally as well.
January, thank you so much. And thank you for those 2 questions. I'm going to use those today when my daughter walks through the door. What went well today? What didn't go well today? I do love that. And I think that we could probably use that for ourselves also, right? In our adult relationships, or, even myself, right? What went well for me today? What didn't go well for me today? What support do I need? Who can I turn to? Who can I lean on, either personally or professionally, to help support me? Because at the end, we all matter. And so I love that you reminded us that children matter, adults matter, that we all matter. And we should be a little bit more kinder to ourselves, right? Because we have all lived through a very traumatic experience for the past couple of years, and we are still catching up and we're still feeling the impact of living through a global pandemic and the impact that it's had on relationships, and feeling isolated and feeling alone and scared and fearful. These are all very, very big feelings. And adolescents, their brains aren't fully developed yet to be able to fully process these feelings. I like to equate it to they're an unskilled driver, driving down IH-35 at 80 miles an hour and not knowing what to do. And so all being able to process these very big feelings in this space of the influence of social media, of technology, going to school every day and making sure that you have trusting relationships and adults that you can connect with, while we're working so hard as professionals to decrease stigma, increase resources on school campuses to help build out capacity, providing these wraparound services, and then making sure that we're taking care of our staff and our teachers so that they can be and feel better prepared when they're stepping into, classrooms every single day and educating the children that we all love and care for. So, panel, thank you so much. You have been incredible and amazing. And I know, January, you have some slides that we would like to share. We can email those out to the participants today. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time. You guys had just amazing responses to the questions. So thank you all. And Michelle, I'm going to turn it back over to you. We've got about 5 minutes left. And so you can give some direction on the next steps of the day today.
Tracy, thank you. I am so excited that I got to connect with Tracy. We have a history with Austin ISD, and I've always had such a great deal of respect for you and the work you do for children and your dedication. So it's been exciting to have you part of this summit, and hope we can continue to work together on things. Ladies, y'all were all phenomenal. Thank you so much for your perspective and your insight and your advice. I think that anybody that was on this, watching this panel, is going to walk away with some good ideas and good things they can take back to their district. And I am sad, January had a great set of slides on trauma-informed practices, which I think everyone would benefit from. We may look and see if we can find a date where we could have her come back and do a webinar for us, since we didn't get to cover those today. But appreciate everyone's attention and being here. We've had a full morning. I think you could probably use a break. We are going to invite Chad to join us. He is with the Catch Foundation and give us a little bit of exercise. Then we're going to take a quick break and have you guys come back at 2:20. So hang with us. Chad, do you need the screen? Anything you need?
Nope, I'm ready to go. As long as I got audio and y'all can hear me, we're good to go.
Well, we can certainly hear you. We'll just take ourselves off and turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. Hi, everyone. My name is Chad Meisner, and I'm with the Catch Global Foundation. I've been a trainer with Catch for, I guess, about 17 or 18 years, and doing virtual brain breaks and physical activity boosters is somewhat new to me, as this world's new to a lot of us in the past few years. So I was invited, or we were invited as an organization, to jump in here and give you all a little activity break, kind of clear your mind, get you reset for the afternoon session. We're all big believers talking about children's well-being, that physical activity is vital in children's well-being, talking a lot about mental health and wellness, and giving kids an environment where they can be good learners. We feel at the Catch program that physical activity is a big component of that. So I got a quick game that we're going to play. It's not going to require much interaction. You can stay muted or even stay off camera, but I will ask you to type a few things in the comment boxes when you return. So this game I call Estimation Destination. And I was a high school business teacher in Round Rock ISD for a number of years. And in Round Rock, we had block scheduling. So I'd have these 16, 17, 18-year-old students for an hour and a half at a time. And there were some days just focus and attention was a struggle. And I would interject these little brain breaks here and there to try to get them to be better learners. I'd rather have them good learners for, 50 minutes than battling them and fighting them all class to only get them to be good learners for 20 minutes. So sometimes it took a little 5 or 10 minute activity break. And I came up with this game, and basically everybody would go up on the whiteboard. I would identify a spot in the school that we're going to do a silent walk to. And while we're walking, everyone's going to count their steps. And before we do that on the whiteboard, they're going to write down their guess for how many steps it is, say from my classroom to the flagpole, my classroom to the football field, wherever we were going. And what these kids never realized is I had them walking through the hallway quietly, so we weren't disrupting other people, but also we were just getting out of our seat, getting our legs moving. Even though it's moderate activity, it doesn't always have to be vigorous activity. It could be real value in kind of refocusing the mind and getting kids' attention, and a little bit competitive too. So we're going to play estimation destination. So when I say go, you're going to get up from your seat and you're going to move somewhere across your house, across the office you're in, the building you're in. Let's give or take, something that'll take you about 30 seconds to go there and back to your seat. But before you do that, what I would like you to do is write down or put in the chat box how many steps you think it is to go from where you are to that point. For me, I'm in an office in my house. I'm going to go to my back door, which is kind of the furthest point from where I'm sitting right now. So how many steps will it take me to go from my seat, touch that door, and return? I want you to go ahead and do the same thing. So if you can add in the chat box how many steps you think it will be to go from where you are, touch that spot, and return. I'm going to go with 60. And you may go. And when you return, type your answer. I'm actually going to jump offline too, because I could use a little activity break. Estimated 75, and it was actually 70. Mine was 53 steps. And I forgot how many I was guesstimating. So I'm just going to give myself a point versus winning. Some of you are spot on. Oops, Michelle, 54, not 200. Take smaller strides next time. That's all right. All right, Angela, I see you. 50, and you were correct. I'm a big believer in children's work as play, and we have to allow kids opportunities to play and to practice and to be physically active, but it doesn't always have to be PE. It doesn't always have to involve equipment or a gymnasium or a field. Sometimes a simple brain break like this could be part of their physical activity. And it also can make a connection to a math lesson. I have an 8th grade daughter, and I'm having to learn how to do algebra again. And my prompt to her is always, does your answer make sense? Does it make sense to guess it's 1,000 steps from here to your kitchen? Maybe not. Maybe 100 does make sense. It's only 50. That's still relatively close. So we can even connect some of the other parts of the academic journey into physical activity. We got lots of chat going on here. So 12 steps. Yeah.
I can't believe I was so far off.
Thanks,
I feel
Michelle.
like while we're on our break till 2:20, I'm going to go make up those 150 steps
Yeah.
that I miscounted. I owe it to myself.
the high school kids would get so competitive with this, you know, and I don't think they ever realized that I was like a few steps ahead of them because they wouldn't talk the whole time. So I was able to take a 5-minute break with them and everybody's quiet. It was amazing.
It's a good one. I like this. All right, everybody. Well, thank you, Chad. Chad will join us again tomorrow for another little break. These are things that you can do with your students or your family. Our family's pretty competitive, so we're going to have to try this. So we'll have you guys come back at 2:20. And I promise we won't start early this time. We did get a little ahead of ourselves last time and started a couple of minutes early, but we will start on time and see you back here at 2:20.
Whole child initiatives. So the meeting is being recorded. I hope everyone. So in my role as director of whole child initiatives, I have the opportunity to help support PE and outdoor ed, and really fortunate for that opportunity. I'd like to not take too much of the airtime. So Leah, if you don't mind, if you would take a moment to introduce yourself and talk about your role in Seguin ISD, in El Paso ISD, forgive me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Wiggum. I'm a parent in the EPISD school district. I'm also director of the Center for Community Health Impact, which is part of UT Health Houston School of Public Health at the El Paso campus. And I've been heavily involved with school health because it's one of the big partnership areas for the center that I direct. So we worked with Action for Healthy Kids as part of our strategic plan several years ago. We worked with Michelle and Action for Healthy Kids to start a regional healthy schools coalition here in the region. So I was on the SHAC prior to that, but then I also, through my day job, got to get involved with a pretty extensive and comprehensive approach we use to launch that Healthy Schools Coalition. So that's given me a perspective at a higher level of all the districts in our region. We have multiple school districts in West Texas here. So, but as a parent, I sit on the EPISD SHAC.
That's great. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for your role on the SHAC. Parents like you that can connect that professional experience and help inform the community are a wealth of information, and I think that the voice that you provide on the SHAC is really so helpful. You know, it's one thing to hear from El Paso ISD staff, but when a community member can share their opinions and those opinions are supported by data, wow, that's huge. So thanks so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Jackie, can you tell us a little bit about your role with Pasadena?
Oh, I am a physical education teacher in Pasadena ISD, and this is my year 18 right now. I absolutely love my job. I love my district. I have to give a shout out to our district representatives, Amber McNaish and Elise Neff. They have done a wonderful job with our district, with our wellness policy and ensuring that PE is a priority in our district. And I am just a PE teacher that follows along with what they have laid out for us. I take advantage of everything that they have provided for us, and I turn around and create wonderful family engaged activities for my parents and my families here at my school. So credit goes to my district leaders, and I take what they give me and I run with it.
Well, that's great, Jackie. Thanks so much. I've heard about your program over the years, and I know that you actually deserve far more credit than you're willing to take right now for making
Thank you.
your program as strong as it is. So thanks for all that you do. And Justine, I haven't seen you yet pop up. Michelle, have you?
Yeah, I was gonna say she's fixing to join. I did not point out that this was Central Time.
Oh, okay, sure.
So she
Sure.
was waiting another hour.
Well, that's good. So we'll have
She'll
Justine
be
join
joining.
us
Yeah.
in just a moment, and we'll let her get caught up with us.
And there she
in
is.
this. Oh, great. All right. Let's see. Justine, welcome. Nothing like jumping right in, right?
Did she get on?
I'm not sure.
Yes, she's on.
All right. We'll give Justine about 10 more
2
seconds to get connected. Yeah. Yeah. Justine, just let us know when you can hear us, and we don't want to get past you.
There she is.
Hi, Justine. Welcome. We're glad to see you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It was on Mountain Time over here in El
That's
Paso.
good. That's good. No, I think if all of us were going to pick a place to be, we'd probably choose the mountains too. So we like that idea. So thanks for joining us, Justine. What we were doing, we just got started. And if you don't mind, if you could tell us a little bit about your role in Socorro and let's start with your role and who you are. Yeah.
So I'm the PE and health facilitator for Socorro ISD. So I'm in charge of pre-K through 12th grade PE and health curriculum. But I'm also one of the SHAC coordinators as well within our district. So yeah, it just started with ESSER funding. So I've only been in this role for 2 years. So hoping to make it a permanent position since ESSER funding is closed for this year.
Right. Well, we'll keep warm thoughts for that to happen too. I think the important work you're doing, I think you've got a pretty strong case for that. So that's great.
Thank
Well,
you.
thanks everybody on the panel for being here. And anytime we get to preach to the choir about the importance of physical activity, it's pretty fun. So we're going to lean into that and really celebrate that all of us are believers. And let's talk a little bit more about, if you were giving advice to some of these other school districts that are listening about how to make sure that physical activity and physical education stay in place in your schools. And Justine, I mean, you just touched on that right here. So your position is completely funded right now from dollars that we don't have any idea where that funding would come from next year. So making that case, that's eminent for you. That at some point in the near future, you're going to be doing that. So what is it that we need to be sharing with other people? And I'll add in that the obvious answer is that we know the data is there, right? But sometimes that's not enough, right? So what is it? And Justine, if you don't mind, will you kick us off with that?
Yes, that's been my goal since getting this position, is trying to make PE relevant and making people understand that we are also important. It's not just the core curriculum that we need to be focusing on, but I would say create ways to have PE teachers be held accountable and so that they stay credible. Don't just let them go off on their own and do their own thing. Right now, we've aligned our PE classes just like our common core curriculum, where we have year at a glance, we have pacing guides, we have district professional development days, the same as every other content. We have district walkthroughs that we do and participate in. And I've tried to become aligned with all the other instructional officers within science and English, doing the same kind of thing, making our curriculum look aligned just like they are, so that we are staying credible.
That's awesome, Justine. Thanks for all of that work. And Jackie, you mentioned early on that that you are grateful to the great work of the administrators that helped create that system that Justine was just highlighting. But we know that it's much harder than that might sound, right? Putting in those systems of having YAGs and pacing guides and all of that. If there's poor instruction or there's just not connection between students and staff, even that is a tough thing to market and to celebrate and say, hey, this is why this matters. So talk about what it is that motivates you, and how can you help some other folks to find that motivation and to find those successes that you've found?
So what motivates me is my students. My students are what motivates me. And I put myself out there to try to create things for them. So basically any competition that comes my way, or any grant, or any extracurricular activity that I could bring to my school, I jump on those and I bring them to my school so that my kids can participate in them. I really have never said no to anything. My attitude is I will try it once, and if it doesn't work, well, then, we'll put it on the back burner. But I try everything. I bring anything I can to the school. I put myself out there so that parents and teachers and the administrators see that there's a lot that happens in PE. So that when those things start disappearing, or if they're starting to dwindle away, they'll quickly realize, oh, wait, we need those things. We need to bring those things back. One example is I do a morning running club with my 3rd and 4th graders, and I do it Monday through Friday. And the kids get to come out onto the track and use their barcodes and earn miles for their mileage clubs. And they can come or they don't have to come. It's completely voluntary. But I had to do several things in the morning for my administrators one week. And so I couldn't host the morning jogging club. And very quickly, parents were calling the administrators and saying, why is Coach Caber not having jogging club? We know she's there. Our kids tell us she was in school that day. Why is there no jogging club? And my principal had to say, well, I'm so sorry. I needed her elsewhere. And so she has never asked me to do anything in the morning again, because my parents reached out and said, hey, what's going on? My kid wants to be on the track. Where's Coach Caber? So I create these opportunities for kids and families so that when they kind of go away, they complain about it. And that's what keeps me in my job. We have a monthly Monday Mall meet, and my parents would love it if I did this once a week. They get to come out onto our track and they get to walk jog as a family. And I usually have between 75 and 100, sometimes 125 people that show up. And they're just out there for an hour, walking and talking with each other, adding miles to their mileage log. And if it ever rains, they're calling me the next day. When are you rescheduling? What day are you rescheduling this for? So my parents hold me accountable, and they hold my administrators accountable for me hosting these things at my school. I guess that's my biggest impact that I have, is that they miss it when it's gone.
Yeah, I think that's a huge testament to how important it is. When the child experience is lost, then that it's much more than running that's happening there, Jackie. There's no question about that, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I had the nurse tell me that, asked me, I said, hey, is this little boy coming to your running club? I said, oh yeah, every morning. He said he used to be dropped off at the front of the building, and a principal would walk him into the nurse's office, and he would sit in the nurse's office until his morning meds kicked in, because he could not handle the classroom environment until those meds had kicked in. Well, he hadn't seen him in like 3 weeks, wondering where this kid is. Well, he's coming out onto the track, and you know what? I don't have issues with him, because within 5 minutes, that med that takes 30 minutes to kick in, it has kicked in. And meanwhile, he's out there with his friends. He's talking, he's socializing, he's having a blast, and it has not been a problem. So people in the building are noticing that this is a huge benefit to our kids, just to get active, get moving, get all the talking and socializing out of the way, so that when they go to class, they're ready to learn and sit and function.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. And we celebrate with you on the great things that you have happening there. So that's just awesome. Leah, I'm going to come to you real quick, and I know you want to make some comments on Jackie as well. But
yeah, I was going to ask a follow-up question to Jackie. If I know you're supposed to be asking the questions, Pete,
hey,
but
no, that's good. Yeah.
That was such a great story, and it reminds me when my son was in middle school, he signed up for cross country. And I was astounded at the number of kids that would show up at 5:30 in the morning when it's still pitch black outside to go run.
Yeah.
And the the coach who volunteered to teach I think they get a small stipend, but it's basically, out of the goodness of her heart, she was willing to do this. She's an English teacher. She'd never run across country herself, but she got herself out of bed every morning to give these kids this opportunity. And she said I commented that I was surprised that so many adolescents would want to wake up early. I mean, these are kids at the stage of development where their biological clock has shifted. They want to be sleeping in. They have a hard time getting to bed at night. And she said it's because they want to come and hang out with their friend. Like, as a middle school teacher, she saw how important this socializing was. And they were doing it in the context of physical activity. Yet most of our school sports in middle school, like when my daughter tried out for the volleyball team, 75 girls tried out, 12 made the team. So there are, 63 girls who wanted to be physically active with their friends after school every day and didn't have that opportunity. And I would see at my son's elementary school, what you're talking about is beautiful, but I would see that there was no opportunity for the kids to have extra time on the playground. They opened the playground a little bit early. They had maybe 10 minutes before school started. But why not have a full hour of playground time? It gives parents more options if they need to get to work earlier. Kids love playground time. I understand it has to be supervised. So my question to you and others on the call is, what can we do to facilitate more opportunities for kids to be physically active through schools in and around? We have a hard time making the argument to squeeze much more in during the day. And I can address what is unfortunately happening at EPISD this school year that Michelle alluded to at the beginning of this session. But, I understand there's barriers if you don't have staff who want to be in that position, but have all of you identified ways to incentivize or increase the possibility of having more physical activity opportunities before and after school, not just fighting for those few minutes we can get during school that, we eke out that little bit of recess and PE time?
Yeah. So at my school, our doors open at 7:10. So my kids can be on the track from 7:10 to 7:40. So that's 30 minutes before they actually have to walk through the halls to get to their classroom. I do have once a week open the doors at 7 o'clock. That gives them 40 minutes in the mornings. And it's usually on a Wednesday. And the kids are out there waiting in line at usually about 6:50, 6:55. And I usually end up opening up the doors a little bit early, but they will get there. If you tell them you'll be there, you'll be opening up the doors early, they'll get there. But they do get 30 minutes faithfully on the track Monday through Friday at our school.
And that's part of your regular hours. Like I was told in EPISD, it had to do with, the union and what the union would agree for teachers. So you're just doing this extra.
Yeah, the goodness of my heart.
Okay.
I don't have to report until 7:30, just like the rest of the teachers, but I see the benefit and I see how it benefits my kids. And so I am more than willing to be there. I get here at 6:30 every morning to open up those doors at 7 or 7:10 so that these kids can come out there and get active. And I do use my open gym running club as a behavior incentive sometimes too. So if they're acting a fool out there, I pull them aside and I say, look, I don't have to be here. I could be at home sipping my coffee, sitting on the couch with my hubby, but I'm here for you. So you're going to have to give me a little bit more than what you're giving me right now. And they pull themselves together really quickly because they understand I don't have to be here. I could be at home like the other teachers or working in my classroom. So I do it out of the goodness of my heart, but I do enjoy it. And I love seeing their smiling faces every morning. So to me, that's worth it.
So much of the great things that happen are completely related to the passion that the staff bring to it, and I think that's what Justine and Jackie just described to us was really they're working in roles that they're very passionate about, and so, but I think Leah, you bring up a good point is, how do we make that to where we can package that up and send that around the state so that other places are doing that. And I think that's the elusive question, and I think it gets right to what we're trying to do is how find place for that passion. And you know, I mean, what I'm hearing is that you hire really, really good people, you know. So I think that's the right, you guys are definitely in the right role right now. Leah, highlight a little bit about what you were describing, that some of the challenges in El Paso, but then also thinking in your role as a well-informed community member, you know, what advice do you give to try to keep physical activity, physical education, keep that importance front and center within a school, knowing that the learning loss environment is very real. Everyone from the folks in Austin today talking about this to, you know, the teachers in every classroom. We're all very aware of that. But how do we make sure that we're not missing the forest for the trees on what we're trying to do?
Yeah, I think these are really important questions. So my family first relocated to El Paso about 10 years ago. And I wasn't as involved with school health prior to coming, but I was still pretty involved. It wasn't part of my professional tasks, but I was a scientist who was focused on nutrition and physical activity and obesity in my previous community, but I wasn't doing community-based school-driven work, but I was an active parent. And when we moved to El Paso, I was pleasantly shocked and surprised to find out that EPISD had PE every day for 45 minutes and recess every day. And I thought, wow, you know, Texas is being progressive. That's not what I expected, because I came from another state. And so that was really great. And then the School Health Coalition that I mentioned that we worked with Michelle and Action for Healthy Kids to get up and running, I learned a lot from Michelle on policy strategy through that process, where if you're already doing more than the policy requires, it could be an easy opportunity, low-hanging fruit, to strengthen the policy. And we did that as a SHAC at EPISD. We actually changed the policy language. I'm not a policy wonk. If John Adams was here, or if he is here, he can chime in, but he could explain better than I can how we changed the language to strengthen the policy, to kind of cement that chain or that great practice into place. So a few years ago, I would have said, to answer your question, Pete, I would have said, get strong policies in place, you know, especially if you've already got the will to do it, get those policies in place. But, you know, I learned this year, a policy can be undone pretty quickly if there's a person in a position of power who has another idea in mind. So unfortunately, we had someone in a leadership position unwind that policy before the school year even really was getting up and running. Very first school district or school board meeting, it was on the agenda, I would say, before most of the parents I talked to didn't even know this was being discussed, but she basically got it on the agenda. Many of us still showed up at the meeting to speak against it, but the meeting got delayed by more than an hour. It was one of the final things on the agenda. So it was about 11 o'clock at night on a school night before it was being voted on. So you can imagine parents of young children are not still in the meeting by then. I mean, I was really disappointed. I don't know how much of that was intentional strategy versus just circumstances, but to me, that was not the way to have a policy that was set by a SHAC, have it unwound without involving the SHAC, because we hadn't even had our first SHAC meeting yet of the school year. And basically the policy got unwound. The section we had added got removed from the district policy. And fortunately, one of the other people in a leadership role added a caveat to the voting so that she couldn't unwind in practice as much as she intended to. The intent was to go from 5 days a week of PE to 4 days this year, 3 days next year, and 2 days the following year. I mean, it was really unraveling the strength of our PE practice. But someone else came in and added this onto the vote. So it's only going to be unwound down to 4 days, not down to 2 days. but who's to say something else couldn't happen in the future? So I was really disappointed that we had done what was best practice in getting that policy strengthened to support the culture of the district. And then it just took one person with an idea of wanting to use those minutes of the school day for something else and falling down. So what might have helped is if our shack was more robust, more numerous in members. But even then, I mean, we had a fair number of parents at that meeting, but it just kind of unwound. So I think we just have to keep being a voice that gets heard, that people know we are there. We did a great job prior to COVID when that policy got changed. We had built our shack from kind of hobbling along to being a very robust shack, where we started having about 50 people showing up at shack meetings. But then COVID hit, and everybody's priorities, of course, were other places. And so we've struggled to kind of get ramped back up since then. Although this school year, we do have parent co-chairs in place who are really energetic. I'm really excited about the co-chairs that have stepped up. So we have kind of found a way to revitalize the shack, but we're just kind of getting up and running again strongly. So this is what happens when your shack kind of wanes a little. There are opportunities that others will take advantage of to not have that strong parent voice and drive their agendas forward. And unfortunately, those agendas often have the stated purpose of improving child learning, but in this case, missing the point that without the structured physical education and without the opportunity for just moving the bodies every day, you're actually limiting the kids' capacity to learn and be better. Healthier brains learn better. So anyway, that's kind of what happened here. And I would just say you gotta keep pushing on all these different fronts. There's no magic formula that works across the board. Every district is different. But we really finding a strong way to communicate with parents, that's always the hardest part. So many of our parents don't even know shacks exist or that they can be involved. But boy, once they do, they're like, oh, this is great. I want to know more. So yeah, it's tricky, but you just got to keep trying lots of different things and be part of groups like this where you can hear other ideas. And then to kind of emphasize what Justine was saying, I think seeing specific to PE, I've seen how our director of health and PE in EPISD has worked very hard in this way to really raise it up as a course with a curriculum. This is not babysitting time. This is not, the time when the classroom teachers are supposed to be having their break from the kids. We're just sending them to the PE teacher. PE is a structured part of their day that's just as important for learning as all the other classes that they take. And elevating PE to be viewed in that way takes concerted effort. And John has done a really good, consistent job at trying to do that. But, we all need to help him do that. Within the district, we need partners helping him do that, but we need parents helping with that too. Because what I learned an important lesson from John, which was he can do all the good work to make sure every PE teacher has a curriculum to follow and is well trained. But at the end of the day, they report to their principal. They don't report to John. And so John's not the one evaluating them. John's not the one deciding if they're living up to the standards that we'd like to see. It ends up being the principal. So then there's a whole level of training that has to happen at each campus to make sure the principals value and understand what physical education is. And I think Justine was getting at that with some of her comments. So I just kind of wanted to echo that I've seen that in our district as well, that that's a really important and challenging task.
Well, thank you for that, Leah, and your perspective is, as I mentioned at the top of this, how important it is to hear from community members, and especially community members that are so well informed as you are. to be clear, we have there are no data sets that support that physical education and physical activity reduce academic outcomes. That is not published anywhere.
Quite the contrary.
Yes. What is published is just the contrary. And so it's such a bizarre concept to think that we would be even having conversations about not utilizing physical activity and physical education in a learning loss environment as one of the interventions to try to get to where we need to be. That is so bizarre to me that we even have that conversation. But I want to just take a couple of minutes to get your reflection on something. And you pointed out, Leah, that the campus staff report to principals. Principals are accountable for academic performance. And often what we're relying on is decision makers' individual experience with physical activity and physical education. That is the lens in which they make decisions on. So, when all of us are sitting around here, all of us have a different association with physical activity and physical education. And that's probably why we've been drawn into this conversation today. But when we have people that are not drawn into that, have you had any success on trying to spin their thought process? Have you had any ways to really displace some of that misplaced belief that out of desk time is not learning? And you know what? Let me Justine, let's come back to you real quick on that, and then we'll work back towards Leah.
I love that you bring this up, especially because I've been working really hard in our district to gain the buy-in of those principals who themselves hate PE. They've had a bad experience in PE themselves as a child. And so we've worked really hard in training them what a good PE class looks like. Because a lot of the times coaches get walkthroughs or t-test observations that the principals are just like, yeah, nobody died or nobody got hurt. It was great. What we've really been trying to do these past years is go in and teach the principals what they should be looking for as far as like a good structured PE class, and explain to them, we do cross-curricular things in here. We do implement math and reading and science and all of these things if they would just come into the class. So a lot of the times it's their last priority in going and observing teachers. I've really implemented them going and walking through PE teachers' classrooms to just go and see all the good work that they are doing. So gaining the buy-in for sure of these leaders is the first step.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Jackie, speak about your role at the campus. I mean, obviously you have enough support to get some great things happening, but what do you do? I know you make a conscious effort of seeking that support.
So I try to be involved in all the other areas of the building, not just PE. And I think that's what makes the biggest impact. I did reach out to the Oliver Foundation, Sandy Bristow, and I wrote multiple grants for grade levels for moving classrooms, just to try to help those grade levels to understand that these kids need to be moving. So we got bicycle desks and standing desks and all kinds of flexible seating. And we started with 4th grade, and then 3rd grade saw what 4th grade was doing, and they wanted me to write them a grant. So we did it with 3rd grade, and it kind of trickled down. And now we have kinder through 4th grade that have flexible seating, moving classrooms. Now my goal is to try to get the teachers to understand that they can teach their kids outside. Let's go outside and, do a lesson. So I'm trying to kind of have my fingers everywhere to try to encourage so that the classrooms are running more smoothly, not just in the PE area. So I have seen huge successes in the grade levels, just with reports of students and parents and teachers telling me how the learning is happening because now they're able to move. As far as support from the administrator, I had a fantastic principal who loved everything about PE, that came into the gym just about every day just to see what we were doing. And she retired. And I'm on year 2 with our new principal, and we're learning to exist in the same building together. And she's coming around more often, but I had to grow on her and she had to grow on me. And I think we're learning to appreciate each other's roles. But I did have to fight for some things, and I did have to, you know, get my big girl panties on and get on that big stool and speak up for my program. And it's been good for me and it's been good for her. But it's been more of a struggle this year to keep up what I have been doing, and then taking it back to my parents. My parents fight for me tooth and nail. So it's been a different year. It's been a growing year, but it's been a good year, and we've accomplished great things. And I still keep my fingers in all the grade levels and are constantly trying to find ways to implement different things. We do math in PE, we do science in PE, we do reading in CE in PE. We're doing letter recognition in kindergarten right now in PE, where they're running and getting letters and building their sight words. So the teachers send me the sight words and the spelling words, and we build them in PE with our foam letters. So we try to be cross-curricular and teaching everything in PE, but also incorporating it into the classrooms. We do a monthly health theme, and we do weekly Quaver health lessons, and those are announced during morning announcements so that the school hears it during morning announcements. Then we're taught the lesson in PE, and then I share tidbits with the classroom teachers, and they use that information for their circle time, morning time. So the kids are hearing these health tips and health lessons everywhere in the building. And then the cafeteria has gotten on board, and they are now advertising what we're talking about in PE and school-wide. So it's really become a whole school classroom environment as we're teaching these health lessons. And it's not just nutrition and health, it's mental health, it's anger control, it's how to talk to your friends, it's so much more. But we're constantly evolving, constantly changing.
That's great. Well, thank you, Jackie. Leah, on those notes of keeping parents engaged, when you think about your role with the Shack and trying to engage the community, and like you mentioned that whether it was intentional or not, that policy change sure seemed to kind of bypass some of the community input that might have been there. When you think about your role with the Shack or engagement with parents in the community, do you feel like there are ways that you are super effective in El Paso in that role? Are there things that others can learn from you? Are there some things that are a challenge to you in that role?
I think there's both.
Okay.
And as I was listening to, I think Justine gave a great response about how to work across multiple principals. In her position, she can do that. I think that's really hard for a single parent. A parent can encourage a principal at their own school to do things a certain way, but it takes someone in a position like Justine to really blanket all the principals and try and change their perception. And I think as parents, we also always, at least for me, I'm always walking that line. The mama bear in me wants to come out and fight for my kid, but at the same time, I don't want there to be blowback as a consequence of that. So I'm always very careful to try and be diplomatic, to push for what I think is best for the kids in the school, or my kid in particular. But sometimes you feel a little uneasy about how loud you can be and how forceful you can be, because you don't know necessarily if that's going to have downstream effects on your kid, unintended negative consequences. And as Jackie was talking, and Jackie, I put in the comment box, we need to clone you and get you in every school across Texas. I mean, you're just doing amazing things, integrating health and PE throughout the school and throughout the courses and so forth. That's just wonderful. But you talking about your previous principal reminds me of an experience that I had that contrasted so drastically with districts in our region. My research center had a contract to do an evaluation of a project at a school district in Virginia a few years ago. And it was a project driven by the superintendent. And she got a grant from a local foundation to implement a new comprehensive health approach in her entire school district. It was a relatively small school district, just a single elementary, middle, and high school. But it was amazing the way it integrated the community into the schools and really drove initiatives that focused on improving nutrition and increasing physical activity. And it included building active classrooms and having this kind of cross-curricular involvement in the active classroom, but also having activities in the standard classrooms at all the different levels, tied in like farmers markets with the child nutrition program and exercise classes for the community members at the schools. I mean, it was just a really neat program. And it was like such a contrast to dealing with districts in our region where all the drive is coming from these middle staff level positions, you know, folks who are teachers, coaches, maybe heading up health and PE departments. But when the superintendent is driving it, it can really have a different flavor. So it occurs to me, to get back to your question, Pete, about how can parents influence that, we need to be engaged with school boards and getting on school boards if possible, so that we're driving what kind of candidates get selected as superintendents and related positions, and really have a voice there, or at the very least be voting for school board members who we have engaged with and asked these questions about, what do you think about the importance of health and PE? Because these decisions are really important. And those people in those leadership positions can, as I described earlier, unravel a lot of good work in a short amount of time if they don't have the same kind of priorities. So I would say that's another important thing for parents to try to keep involved with. We're all busy people, so it's hard to do, but you know, run for school board, or at least be very engaged with your school board members. Someone was elected for your neighborhood, for your part of the school district. So if nothing else, pester that person and make sure they represent you as a parent and the values that you believe in.
Thank you for that, Leah. Justine, have you gone to speak with your school board members, or do you present to your school board about programs?
Yes, I feel like the school board members are, I love them, honestly. I feel like I bother them every week with showcasing something that we're doing PE health wise, shack wise. Right now we try to submit something to their Friday packet almost every week. Like, hey, Duarte Elementary just did a color run and had 400 parents that came through. Or, hey, we just did a 5K run for all employees free of charge and we had 800 participants. Or we try to always, I'd love to showboat it, because I'm like, they don't want to get rid of us. We're great PR for them, you know? All the PE teachers are usually the people that bring in those community events, and they're the ones that make schools look great in a lot of these ways. And so I try to always meet with them within like when we're trying to get something passed, or a Friday packet, or sending an email, just always try to invite them places for sure.
That's great. And Jackie, I don't know if you have an opportunity to engage with the school board much. I'm sure you presented to them at some point. I'm sure they've highlighted your program. Is there anything that you can share about engagement with the school board?
Well, as far as engaging with the school board, having different events at my school to invite them out. We have several events at our school where we've like won competitions, or things like a veterans ceremony where we invite them out. The best way that I can engage with them is invite them to my events and show them the family engagement and the physical activity level and the learning that's happening with families present or during the school day. That's really the best way that I interact with them, is to invite them out and show them what we're doing, show them the impact that we're making.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. You know, let's take the same kind of question. And so you mentioned, Justine, about using the board communication, the weekly board communication to highlight something in your area. How do you communicate out to the bigger community, to parents, to non-parents in the community about the important things that are happening?
So just like Leah had said, a lot of the parents do not know that a shack exists or what is shack. So what we try to do here is we try to make it we had a shack tailgate party we have a big student activities complex where all our football games are played. So we had a huge shack tailgate. One of our shack agencies, Project Vita, sponsored the event, had all the food and all that. And then on the scoreboard, we promoted shack. And what some of our agencies came out and surveyed parents and students before the football game started on teen pregnancy. And then we had a shack kid zone. And we ran a kid zone during the football game, had about 200 families that came through. And we also talked to parents while they were there about what is shack. So we're just trying to promote shack everywhere. There was a father-son conference that we had a table at. We're just about to have a Partners in Ed expo that we're going to have a table at. We have a winter wellness land that's just about to come up in December, where we give back 200 wellness items or Christmas gifts to our underprivileged students. Last year was in our Socorro feeder. This year is in our Eastlake feeder. We have some of our agencies like Texas A&M AgriLife. They come out and they build a healthy snack for these kids. El Paso Public Library donated books for them. El Paso Children's Hospital comes out and they volunteer for the whole day. So we get the word out there by like, oh, Shack just gave out Christmas gifts to 200 students. What is Shack? Or why did you get a Christmas gift from Shack? And then we are currently working. This is our first year. I love a good event, let me tell you. This is our first year that we're going to do a student athlete conference. I'm a former Division I volleyball player, and I'm like, mental health is so important right now for these athletes in decision making, nutrition for them, because a lot of them have bad eating habits or disorders. So we're going to be putting on a Shack student athlete conference. So not only are we trying to hit elementary students, but now we're trying to hit the student athletes. So just trying to find ways to promote Shack in a different way. Instead of like, we're just going to have a monthly meeting and we're going to try to change policy, or we're going to try to, do this. We really try to market it in a way that like, Shack is cool. Come and join us. So we have about 132 people that come to our Shack meetings on a regular basis. We have 30 executive members that actually vote, but we call the rest of them the galley, and they just get to take the information and take it back to their campuses. So one of the big things that we're doing this year is we're tracking the agencies. We have 34 agencies that come and present, but we're tracking those agencies to see who's actually coming out to our schools in our community, so that we can really partner with them and reach out to them in those ways too. So I love Shack as much as I love to eat.
Wow. Well, I think my count was, I think you just gave about 27 different ways that people can market their Shack. So if you guys, if anyone is leaving this meeting right now without a plan on how they can market their Shack, you guys just missed a real important about 7 minutes of this is how to do it well. So Justine, well done on that. So, that's great. Leah, can you add on how you guys are trying to get the word out with in the community to join the Shack and participate in the Shack, and the incredible opportunity that participation in the Shack brings to people?
Well, I don't think I can even come close to what Justine's doing. That's an amazing list. I was taking notes. That's great, Justine. I know that we've tried word of mouth through the parents that are involved, and that can help. We've gone through the PTAs and the PTOs. And this year, what seems to have really worked well is that we activated communication channels that I didn't really know how to activate before. But John Adams, our head of health and PE, figured out from within the district how to get on those automated phone calls, text messages, and emails that go out to parents. I always find those systems confusing because certain things I get and certain things I don't get, and I'm never quite clear why, but I know enough from running my own communication strategy at my research center that it's a whole profession in and of itself, of course, to optimize outgoing communications and make sure things land in people's inboxes without getting blocked and so forth. So that has helped a lot. We got a big upswing in parent engagement when John activated those communication strategies. And then what he did prior to COVID that led to our big burst of parent engagement was he had funding for stipends for campus wellness team leads. So a teacher from each campus could agree to be the wellness contact for the campus and run the wellness team at the campus. And they'd get a small stipend for doing that throughout the school year. And so he made it mandatory as part of their role and getting that stipend, they had to attend a certain number of SHAC meetings and bring a parent from their school. That was a really effective strategy because it got the staff member there. In many cases, it was a PE teacher, but sometimes it was a classroom teacher. But it was always a teacher who cared about health, or they wouldn't have been in that role. And because they always brought a parent along, it got parents from a great number of the campuses, at least to a single meeting. And oftentimes that's what it takes. Once the parents know that SHAC exists, then they get involved. So that was a really effective strategy as well, having that required link. And we really want that connection between the campus wellness team and the SHAC anyway. I mean, that's the intent, is that the SHAC member from each campus communicates to the SHAC about what's happening at the campus and communicates back to the campus wellness group about what's happening at the SHAC. But I know when my son was in elementary school, I was supposed to be that person, but somehow I never managed to get to those wellness team meetings. Like, I wouldn't find out about them in time. I think I only went to one over about a 3-year period. So sometimes it's just hard to get that alignment of schedules and time commitment and so forth. But so those are some of the things we've done. Not nearly as much fun as the ideas that Justine has implemented. I loved hearing about all this.
But clearly effective. So that's great. Jackie, I want to end with you on the topic of messaging. And so thinking about at the campus level, what have you used and what has been successful that you would recommend to really share with your school community the importance of physical activity and your program?
So I use 3 methods of communication for my parents. I use the Remind app. I send my parents something weekly with the Remind app. And then we have Skyward messaging, and I use Skyward for the parents who don't have Remind. So our parents are either on Remind or they're on Skyward. We have a few that are on both, and they just get a double message. But I communicate weekly with them through that. They can message me back or reply to me back through both of those messaging services. So that's really the biggest way I communicate with them. And then I do have a very active Facebook page, Turner PE Facebook page. And I've had this page a long time before they implemented the business pages. So my page is kind of like an individual. Schools were allowed to set them up like individuals back then. And so it is very, very private. I only accept friends if they are parents or grandparents of my students. And when my 4th graders leave, I unfriend those parents, because I only want people who are directly linked to my school to be able to see the things that I post. Friends of friends cannot see them. Friends of friends cannot share. I don't make anything shareable or viewable by anybody that is not my friend. And that's how I help protect the privacy of my students. And my parents really appreciate that. And they love my Turner PE Facebook page. I post videos, pictures every day of things we're learning, of our health lesson. And I ask the parents, when your child comes home today, ask them about this. Ask them to share with you what we learned today. Right now we're doing Red Ribbon Week. So I've sent a lot of information home with students that I want their parents asking them about, opening up, the lines of communication. So those are the 3 ways that I communicate best with my parents. I do have my secretary do call outs every once in a while, but to me, that's not an effective tool because they can't reply to me. I prefer the Remind and the Skyward because they can send me messages through those mediums. And then obviously through Facebook, they can message me through Messenger and they could leave comments on pictures or videos, or if I'm advertising something, they can ask questions and I will get that through my iPad immediately. So the lines of communication are definitely open. And I think that my parents feel comfortable reaching out to me through those methods.
I'm sure they do. And like you pointed out, you know, communication the devil's in the details, right? So it all matters, doesn't it? So it can help you and hurt you just the same if you miss one thing. So yeah, tight procedures on how you do that, make that successful. So I want to thank all of you for your participation on this panel. We've got a couple of minutes and you all have touched on so many things. I imagine there might be a couple of questions from the rest of the folks that are on the Zoom meeting with us. So if anyone would drop those into the chat, that would be great. Or Michelle, can they unmute and just ask a question as well?
Sure.
Okay.
I think it's been a pretty quiet group. We've only had maybe a couple of questions all day. Y'all are just overwhelming them with information.
That's for sure. Yeah.
A lot of good.
There was a lot shared. That's for sure.
I did drop in
A lot of great content. So
good.
Yes.
So someone had asked about websites or documents about the shacks, links, anything that you would like to share. If y'all have anything you want to drop into chat. I put in the Socorro ISD School Health Advisory Council page link, as well as the Pasadena and also Fort Bend because they have a strong shack page.
Thanks for dropping those in. Yeah, so it doesn't look like we're seeing any other questions that we haven't addressed. So again, I want to thank all of you for your participation. Thank you for your great work in helping to promote physical activity and physical education in Texas. You know, the truth is that we're only as good as the teachers that we have providing programming. So you guys provide a model and guidance and leadership that will bring the field up a notch. So everyone that was participating today that has a direct role in physical education programming or physical activity promotion has a playbook now based on what they've heard. And so please run with that. Remember, you know, advice I got, this is my 26th year, but I think the advice I got, I think it was in my 21st year and or 4 years in, so 21 years ago or so. And the advice was to run the gym with the mindset that I was running the school. And then I take that forward. So now in my district role, I try to run the district in how I want the community to go. So that's the level that we need to be thinking about is how does our work affect the world that we want to live in? And so I think that all of our panelists provided an excellent example of that and the important work that all of us are in. There's no role that is too small or insignificant in making the world a better place. So thank you guys and continue to be the light that we know is needed for physical activity in Texas. So thanks everyone.
Thanks, Pete. I think it's important too. It's always said by John Adams that the physical educators are the social emotional health people in as much as the counselors. And the role that y'all play in a student's mental health is huge. And we need to keep that in mind when we're talking to school administrators and we're talking to parents. You're not just being physically active, you're learning social skills, you're learning how to relate to different people. There's so much that you're getting, whether it's cross-curricular or not, just from a physical education class. And we need to emphasize those things when we're dealing with school administrators and parents and make sure that physical education is elevated to the place it deserves. So anyway, I'm preaching to the choir.
It's important messaging though. That's right.
So thank y'all very much for joining us today. Jackie, you're always impressive. We did an event with Jackie's school several years back with Aldi, which is the grocery store chain, and they sent their employees out for a smoothie night. And their employees manned blenders, and I think she had every parent and child in that school come through there and make a smoothie that night and go home with a recipe on it. And they had prizes, and this was maybe 5 years ago. And all these employees loved it so much, they're coming back every year still, even though we're.
Yeah, they're not Aldi's employees, they're the Aldi store owners.
Oh, okay. You're
Yes,
the owners. I
those
mean,
are the Aldi store owners that came to man those blenders.
and it's just, that's what you get when you have a passionate person in that physical education position,
Sure.
that it just, it just builds, and the parents. So, I mean, your principal, your superintendent, they don't have stand a chance against you. I love
That's
it.
the truth. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. And Pete, thanks so much. It's always good to hear from you and this amazing team. You had a great panel. Thank y'all all so very much. We are going to take a break in here just a minute. And we will be back at 3:30. And I want everybody to please, please, please come back, because we are going to have an amazing youth voice panel. Earlier this in our presentation and our session, we talked about how vitally important it is to hear directly from our students, our youth, and engage them in conversation and take input and feedback from this very important group. And so at 3:30, we will be joined by a couple of youth who their school day will be ending officially, but they're going to join us for a little while. And so I encourage everyone to please come back. About 10 minutes of a stand-up break, and we will return.
Count your steps.
Yes, count your steps.
Refrigerator and back.
All right, we'll be back with everyone shortly. Thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back, everyone. We are just up here at 3:30 or so, and we are looking for all of our youth panel. Oh, I see a couple coming on. We'll do a real quick, hi, Sophia. We'll do a real quick mic check to make sure everyone is that we're able to hear you. And then I will turn the panel over to Miss Sandy Bristow, who is going to be moderating this session. And so real quick, let's do a mic check if y'all don't mind. Emma?
Hi, can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Perfect. Thank you, Emma. Okay, Andrew.
Hi. Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Fantastic. Sophia?
I'm here.
Great. Okay, let's see. I think we're also waiting for Riley.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. I was gonna say, I don't see you just yet. Okay, there you are. Hi, Riley. Thanks for joining us. Okay, and then let me look at who else is missing right now.
Shayna and Winston.
Yes.
Could probably let this group get started introducing themselves.
Yes, that
Get
sounds
turned
like a
over to
plan.
Sandy.
All righty. Okay, Sandy. Sandy, who is another one of our steering committee members, is going to facilitate this session. And she represents the Oliver Foundation. Sandy, would you like to take it away?
Sure. Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of our youth that have joined so far. And if we'll go ahead and start with introductions. Andrew, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Andrew Wright. I'm a sophomore at Kincaid, and I'm part of the Oliver Foundation.
Okay. Riley?
Hi, I am Riley Wallace. I am from El Campo ISD High School, and I'm representing Healthy Texas Youth Ambassadors.
Okay, Sophia?
Hi, I'm Sophia Burnett, a sophomore at St. John's School, and I'm on the Oliver Foundation board.
Okay. I guess we can go ahead and get started with a couple of the questions.
Sandy, we do have Emma also.
Oh, I'm sorry. Emma, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hi everyone, my name is Emma Belzung. I am a senior, and I am also representing the Healthy Texas Youth Ambassador Program.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, our first question that we're going to ask is, what do you think are the top 2 health issues impacting youth in your area? Emma, do you want to go ahead and start?
Sure. Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind when I hear that question is definitely mental health. I know that is a struggle for many of my peers, and I can see the effects and impact of that throughout a lot of schools in my area. So I would say that that is definitely a crisis that our youth today are facing. And then for the second one, I would just say I think healthy lifestyle choices, dietary decisions, physical activity, things like that. Just a lack of knowledge and understanding and education on that is also another issue that is facing our youth today. That is something that I'm really passionate about, and why I joined the H2IA program, so that I could help educate and encourage my peers to embark on those healthy lifestyle decisions.
Okay, Sophia?
In my opinion, some of the most dangerous health issues in my generation right now are vaping and a lack of knowledge on what nutrients are important to be eating for daily health. I've noticed a lot of people in my grade aren't aware that they need to have a balanced meal at all times, especially during lunch.
Okay. Andrew?
One of the two most like really big health issues right now are obesity and poor nutrition. Kind of like Sophia said, that people are kind of right now, kids our age are kind of eating wherever they want, wherever it makes them feel, whatever they feel like, and that's really affecting their health. They're eating a lot of junk food, a lot of fast food, which is really hurting the body, and over time it will cause obesity. Another thing I think is substance abuse, especially in high school, with the alcohol and vaping and drugs become more available, and kids are taking them and becoming addicted to it, and really affecting their whole life completely.
Okay. Does anyone else want to have a comment on that or wants to add to the conversation? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Do you have suggestions for what schools and students like yourselves can do to help address these issues? Andrew, do you want to continue?
Yes, ma'am. I think first, I think they should really promote like being active to kind of help the obesity part, because you can eat healthily, but still need to be active so you can burn off those calories. I think that can really be a big difference, especially for like kids in elementary school who kind of eat whatever. They can promote say, running every day, playing fun games just to keep them moving. That can be very big for them, but also on a high school level, talk about substance abuse and like the negative effects that it has for them, just to have kids be aware of, if you do drugs, this will happen. If you drink too much, this will happen. Just educate them more on the negative effects of substance abuse.
Okay. Do you have any types of groups at your school that offers counseling on that, or?
Yes, ma'am. We have we have someone that comes every year. I forget his name, but he comes every year and he educates us on like the negative effects of drinking and the negative effects of, I would say, drugs. But he kind of tells us real life stories as well, just to kind of show us the reality of it. We also have teachers there. We have a class for the Citizens for Healthy Living that every freshman has to take freshman year, and they talk about the negative and positive, the negative effects of drugs, and like this can happen if you do this, and this will happen. And also to try and teach us, well, if you are hooked onto drugs, how can you help? So we have that class offered at Kincaid that every freshman has to take.
That's great. Riley, would you like to comment on the health issues?
I think something that really works for my school that I go to. So I go to a 4A size school, so pretty big in my area, and I'm a senior this year. And I think something that sometimes gets through to kids is we have assemblies sometimes, but it's not always a person that the kids really want to see and want to engage with. But recently we had someone who like went through a hard situation in life, and he really like connected with the kids that were there in that auditorium. So I think having like influential speakers like that is really important that kids can hear from. Additionally, I know this is like a very widely known thing, but the Shattered Dreams program, where they show like the real effects of texting and driving and alcohol, things like that, that's really, really powerful. So I think this is one of the years that at my school they'll be doing that. And that's really powerful in helping address things to where they can see it on like a real scale and become more real to them.
Okay, so how the person that talks to you, are they one of your classmates or someone in your school or someone outside of the school that has such a positive effect?
They actually got someone who's outside of school. So an adult came in who had a childhood experience, and so he came in and connected with us in that way. We haven't had speakers that are actually students at our school. Usually there's someone who's widely known outside of school that they get in to come as a motivational speaker or promotional or addressing some kind of issue.
Okay. Sophia?
I feel like the vaping issue is mainly could be controlled by law enforcement, but what the school could do is we've like had drug assemblies and drug abuse assemblies, but maybe an assembly of how to avoid peer pressure, because that's also like the biggest cause of vaping, I think. And then as for nutrient deficiencies, I would say probably like we haven't had that many assemblies about how to eat healthily since middle school. And I think since we have control over what we eat since we're getting older, it's still important for us to have assemblies like that. So I don't know of any groups in my school that are specifically for ensuring that everyone in the grade will have the nutrients that they need, but I could definitely like try to start one and make sure that we can get that across to everybody during an assembly.
Okay, do you have health in your school, in high school? Do you have a health
As a
class?
class? No, we don't have a, well, yeah, I don't think so. We only have anatomy like for senior year, but I
Uh-huh.
don't think that really taps into eating.
Okay. Emma, do you have a comment on that?
I would just say, kind of piggybacking off of what Riley was talking about with having someone come in to speak who connects with the audience, I think is really important. I know I like as a high schooler having my peers, there's like a certain emphasis and connection that you can make when you have someone your age tell you something versus having an adult tell you it. So I think definitely encouraging kids who are passionate about certain issues to connect with their peers and to help educate them on these issues that we see is so important, because it just carries a certain impact and influence that might not come if it comes from, if they think it's just another adult telling them what to do. So I
Right.
think encouraging those peers, adults encouraging peers and peers stepping up to help lead some of these efforts is really important.
I think that's great. And also with y'all being involved in health and fitness and being involved in your groups, mentoring younger children is huge too. Not only your age group, peer to peer, but peer to younger children. You make a huge impact. Like you said, they're going to listen to you rather than listen to an adult. So, okay, that's great. Thank you. Andrew, did you have anything else to add to that than what you've already said?
Yes, also want to mention that we also have like at Kincaid a healthy class in 7th grade as well. So Kincaid really puts like that all throughout middle school, at least for the second half of middle school, about staying healthy. I know Kincaid will also offer a lot of opportunities to play sports to kind of keep them in shape and keep them active. Yes, ma'am.
That's great. Okay, data shows that kids are unhealthier after the pandemic, eating less fruits and vegetables, being less active. What is your school currently doing to encourage healthier habits, and how can you support their efforts? Riley?
So it's actually kind of a little different at my school. So our cafeteria is really, really old, and it actually is not big enough to hold our entire school. So for example, there was like 300 kids in the last class. There's about 250 in mine, and our cafeteria can't hold that many people. So freshmen have on-campus lunch, but the rest of the grades have to go off campus. So I guess this causes a big dent in our school because there's not that many kids eating the healthy lunches that the school provides. And so because we get to go off campus, I live in a very rural area, so a lot of people can't go home for lunch to get a healthier option. I do because I live close, but most of the people are going to fast food restaurants, and that's really significantly decreasing their health, even though most of those kids are involved in athletics, that kind of thing. But I guess it's a little bit different on my end. I'm sure that our SHAC committee is trying to work on that, but as of this present time, it's mostly the facilities that have really put a dent in our health.
Okay, does your school offer like grab and go lunches so more more students could eat the school meals?
So any student that wants to stay on campus has the ability to do that during that lunch period. The only challenge is most people do go off campus because it's just more appealing, but if they want to stay on campus, that is offered to them. They can also still apply for all the free and reduced lunches as well. But the only problem is because it's so small, it sometimes takes a long time to get through the line. So that also is a big factor.
Okay. Sophia?
I think my school is like very walkable because there are different classes in like different locations. Like, for example, I would probably have to walk past two buildings to get to chemistry, and then I would walk back to like the quad for English. So I feel like that's important, kind of like building our stamina and helping us be active throughout our day and during classes. And then as well, sometimes during advisory, my advisory goes on a walk, which like, although it's like not very stressful, not strenuous, I think that it does make a change in our day and like helps us become more active.
And it also gets you outside, and I think that's a great idea. Emma?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure.
Sorry.
Data shows that kids are unhealthier after the pandemic, eating less fruits and vegetables, being less active. What is your school currently doing to encourage healthier habits, and how can you support their efforts?
Right. So this question is kind of hard for me to answer because I am actually homeschooled.
Okay.
So yes, I am involved with the Healthy Texas Youth Ambassador Program through 4-H. And so I can't speak specifically to what I can do at my school, but just speaking specifically to how I can get involved in my community through the ambassador program and through 4-H, I would say just again, kind of what we've been talking about, educating and having those events and certain groups to encourage kids to learn more about the consequences of eating unhealthy and how they can improve their diets, decisions that they can make to live healthier lifestyles. I know in our county we hold workshops or events, and we have like fun little things to kind of get people interested and want to come. And then we also have like educational sessions. So I'm not sure how applicable that would be to the schools in my district, but that's something that we do with all of the kids of all age in our community as a whole.
Okay, that's great. Andrew?
Like kind of saying versus fear, our school is probably like is really big, so I have to walk a lot, but also can K to graduate. One of the requirements for graduate is to take about 6 athletic or PE courses, I guess. So we offer, you don't have to be on the sports team, but we offer yoga, stretching, recreational golf. We have a lot of different opportunities we have that after school you can do for about an hour or so, so you can stay healthy. And they do it a lot, and a lot of kids actively do that even after they achieve the 6 requirements. It's just fun. It gets us outside. It keeps our blood moving. So we also offer sports, and everybody plays sports. I was working out, and we have a gym right really accessible to us, so we can go work out whenever we need to. But they offer a lot of things we can use to help us stay active, to help us just improve our physical health as well.
Okay, what about fruits and vegetables and food? And
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They have that. They have like a salad bar, like a really big salad bar. You can pick out different things. They have a lot of healthier drinks. We really don't offer soda much. They offer like Gatorades, Propels, water, like a lot of healthy drinks. You can make your own sandwich. In the morning, there's a little fruit bar you can pick from in the morning. So the cafeteria is very diverse in food, but mostly on the healthier side.
Okay, so they're trying to promote.
Yes, ma'am. They're trying to promote healthy eating and also healthy activities to make sure you can stay physically good.
Okay, our next question is, how do you stay both physically and mentally healthy? What does your school do to support student and staff mental healthness? Sophia?
Okay, so for me, what my school does is like similar to Andrew's school a lot, because every lunch we have like a lot of options to pick from. So if you are allergic to one option, you can always get another one. There's vegan options and there's plenty of fruits and vegetables. And as well, I think like what I personally do is I try to stay active even if I'm like not at a school sport. I go to like self-defense class twice a week, and that helps me stay active. Sometimes I go to the gym or like work out at home with a yoga mat. And then to be mentally healthy, I definitely make sure that I schedule enough breaks for myself while I'm studying. And I also try to like do something fun every week, like spend time with my friends or something like that. And then I'll be able to have something to look forward to.
Okay, Riley?
So I am actually at my high school, so I'm involved in a couple sports. So my main one is actually swimming. So I swim 5 days a week on our competitive swim team. Sometimes going in the morning just to get some extra practice in. So that's an equivalent to probably like a mile to 2 miles a day. So that keeps me physically active, as well as all of our classes are also in different buildings. It's not one big building. So I also have to walk between classes. And at our school, the athletics period is built into our day. Mine is eighth period, which is the last period of the day, but for some people, it's either first or fourth or fifth. So that builds in physical activity even during the school day. Mentally healthy, my school, I mean, this week is Red Ribbon Week. So obviously, we're doing the different themes and people are getting excited about it. But as well as we have our like video class at school creates morning announcements every week, and those morning announcements usually include something about like what is the most health factor of that month. So whether, they usually have something about dyslexia or breast cancer awareness or reading disabilities or something like that, just to help educate the students that like how they can get help where they can. So that's usually something they put in that video. And then also our school newsletter has all that information for those kids. And additionally, we also have the suicide helpline, obviously, on the back of all of our ID tags as well.
Okay. Andrew?
One thing our school do, like I said, to keep us physically healthy, like I said, we offer a lot of sports and we offer healthy options at lunch, but they really have been focusing a lot on mental health recently. And like in Kincaid, there's always someone you can talk to, always an adult you can talk to if you go through anything. But we also offer a professional therapist on the school. We have two of them. We have two on the school every day. They just go to, no appointment needed, and just walk in. If she's free, you sit there and just talk to her for as long as you need. And also, if you're ever feeling stressed out with school, the teachers there are very accommodating. They can, if you just talk to them, they will make things work for you. A lot of tests one week, the teacher will let you take the test the next week. And that's kind of how they can help improve our mental health. And they don't want to stress us out way too much. They want to work with us. All you have to do is go up and just talk. And they're really receiving. That's how they can really improve our mental health as well. We'll also have a sports therapist as well for athletes to kind of get in their head a whole lot. And we have one you just go and talk to, and he can really help you get your mind right for a big game coming up or something.
Sounds like you really have a great support system in your school.
Yes,
built.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They really take pride in that.
Fortunate to have all of those resources right there.
Yes, ma'am. Really am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Emma, since you're homeschooled, what do you do to maintain your physical and mental health? You're probably in a lot less stressful situation, but
Yes, I get to do school in my pajamas, so that's definitely less stressful. But I would say definitely with the physical activity aspect of it, I get to play sports with we partner with an academy. And so I use that as my way to make sure I'm getting my 60 minutes or more of exercise daily. And then also just my family will go out and go to the park and go running or go play soccer together on the weekends, things like that, to make sure that we're staying fit. And then also with mental health, just making sure to try and plan my week to where I don't overbook myself or stress myself out, because I know when I try and do too much, that's when I start feeling very overwhelmed and anxious. So definitely understanding that and planning my week out in that way. And then also I would say going physical exercise, I feel like is related to mental health. That is an outlet that I have really utilized and enjoyed. That exercise really helps to relieve some stress and give that outlet to help with my mental health. And then additionally, I would just say being involved in my church. I think that spiritual health is a really big aspect of mental health. And so I really appreciate the emphasis that my family has put on keeping up with your spiritual health and being active in your church. That's definitely one of the biggest ways that I've been able to not only maintain mental health, but also maintain my spiritual health and grow my relationship with Christ. So.
Well, it sounds like you have a very supportive family unit in your home. That's great. Okay, now we're going to switch over to some nutrition. School meal participation varies greatly across schools and districts in Texas. What ideas or suggestions do you have that would help increase the number of students eating school meals? Sophia?
Okay, so during lunch, I have noticed like a lot of people may skip their meals because they think that like not eating as much will help them lose weight, when in reality, it causes their body to it causes their body to feel stressed and assume that they're in a situation where there's not a lot of food available, and actually slows down their metabolism even more. And that paired with like not exercising enough will also continue to slow down their metabolism. So I feel like by like educating people on how to keep themselves healthy and balanced, and like how to keep their metabolism high so that they don't have to worry about weight gain at such a young age, will really help people to eat their meals more, because there's a lot of misinformation that I think could be cleared up if like people were educated on it.
Do you have a lot of students that eat meals at your school?
Yeah, like I would say most people definitely do, but I've just like noticed sometimes people will eat less or like not eat enough because they will assume that that helps lose weight.
Okay. Andrew?
I would say offer healthier options, but I know some people are a little afraid of eating in front of people. And I think that if schools can educate people or try to help break that wall down a little bit, then people will start eating a lot of healthier options. I know my school offers a lot of healthy options in general. So I think if people become more comfortable eating in front of people, then a lot more people will start eating at school, start eating more healthy, which they can start improving our bodies. I know, for example, I have a friend that gets like a little timid, doesn't eat, they don't eat a lot in front of people. When they're by themselves, they eat a lot. And going a whole day without food is really not healthy for you. So over time, I started encouraging him, like, hey, I don't care if you eat in front of me. It's okay. Do this as I told him a lot over time. He started to do that, and I see like a significant boost in his energy because I was eating throughout the day. He's more engaged, he's more active, he's more of himself than waiting to get home to eat. So I think if people really spread that awareness, like, hey, a lot of people don't really care if you eat in front of them, so just eat. I know my teachers let us eat in the classroom because they know we don't have enough time at lunch to eat. So I think once people understand that it's okay to eat, no one really is bothered by that a whole lot, then we can see more people eating food and eating more healthily as well.
Okay, so the majority of the students in your school eat the school meals?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. A lot of people do eat the school meals.
Okay. Emma? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So just I know from like hearing from my friends who go attend the schools that are in my district, I know they've done a lot to like make their meal plans more healthy, which I think has been a really great way to educate students on nutrition with the changes that they've made, and then also give them an avenue to eat healthier by providing those healthier meals. So yeah, I think that East Central is the school that's closest to me, and I know they've done a good job of having those healthier meal plans in place to encourage and help students eat healthier while they're at school.
That's great. Riley?
So in particular at my school, I know because not a lot of kids are engaged in those lunches, that also contributes to there not being a lot of options. I think previously they did have like where you can have a sandwich bar or a salad bar. I don't think there's a lot. I think there's one meal line. There might be a couple options in that meal line, but most people tend to grab the same thing. So I think if there was always something extra that they had, so something to where they had sandwiches on the side, or maybe a salad or something else that people could grab as an alternative every day, instead of just waiting for the time of the week where we have fruit on our plate or something else, would be a great way to have more people eating, and then also more people eating healthier because they have a choice.
Okay. Have any of the students addressed this with the cafeteria manager or to try to get improvements or bring in different foods?
Unfortunately, sometimes I think that most kids are just more inclined to just not eat lunch altogether than they are to step forward. But I have had intentions to maybe bring that up. But the problem is, I guess this is kind of again specific to my school, is just that there's not a lot of movement forward in that because we are working, we're supposed to they're bidding to get like the big FEMA dome or whatever so that we can have that as our cafeteria. But until that becomes into place, I just think that in my school in particular, there's not enough need for them to go out of their way to use their budget to make those changes.
Okay, okay. Okay, students like you are leaders in changing the health and wellness environments in your schools. What suggestions do you have to increase student and or community involvement with these efforts? Emma, do you want to comment even on the health, on the wellness environments in your area? I guess we could do in the health.
Yeah, so one thing that I think the H2IA program does really well is just encouraging older students to reach out and help educate and mentor the younger students. As a high schooler, I was able to go with my extension agent to a elementary school in our area, and we were able to do like a 6 or 8 week program, helping kids know how to eat properly, why that's important, the consequences of not considering your health. And then we also had like a gardening portion. So we focused on like the nutrition aspect, we focused on the gardening portion, teaching them where their food comes from, how to grow some of their own food. And then we also focused on like physical activity and why that's important and how all three kind of work together to help you improve your health and stay healthy. So that was one opportunity that was really great for us as high school students to reach out to the younger, our younger peers, and then also for the younger grades to have the opportunity to learn and be educated early on why those things are important.
That's great. Sophia?
Earlier, I was talking to my school nurse and we were like, because she's my advisor, so we were talking about what I eat in a day. And she was like saying that she was surprised because most students like don't know that you need to have like protein and carbohydrates and healthy fats with your meal. So I was thinking like maybe a group in our school could help students build meal plans and like teach them how to have a balanced meal, because as we go into college, we're not going to be able to have resources like this as easily. So it's really important that we learn how to feed ourselves before we're out and like living by ourselves. And then I think that my school also, it like kind of dissuades people from using social media to spread information. And like, for example, we can't use TikTok on school Wi-Fi, and like we can't really use social media for school, like school related things. But I feel like instead of banning it, we could utilize it and use it for like for our advantage, I guess, because we could spread information easier that way. Like if we have an assembly but a student doesn't come to school that day or something, they would be able to see it online. And then also we could use posters around the school and cafeteria as like simple reminders, because my student council uses posters and that does spread information really quickly because most people are visual learners and like very like notice things like that. And then as well, my school has a group called Students Against Stigma that I think like collaborating with them to do an assembly on how to have a balanced meal will definitely like change a lot of students' perspectives on eating and remove the stigma of eating in front of others. And that will normalize like having healthier eating habits.
Okay, does your community around your school support your school and efforts that you're making to become healthier? And does the community get involved in any of your activities or anything like that?
Well, they're like, do you mean by school clubs? Because I would say like the school's definitely very supportive of like a healthy lifestyle, and they try to implement things that improve our mental health, like assemblies, as I said, or by having student counselors.
Okay. Do you have events in your community to where at your school to where you can invite the community around you to come and attend?
I would say the only thing that we have like that is community service projects, but we do work with the food bank often.
Okay. Okay. Andrew?
Yes, I think kind of like Emma said before, having like the high schoolers talking to younger students, we had to talk to the young kids to help them have that mindset early so they can understand like the importance of health of eating healthy, because I know kids will receive things from kids as well, or even if the coaches talk to the kids about it as well. We don't know my cross country team. One day we had a nutritionist come to school and just talk to us about eating healthy. And I think even if we get that once a year, that can really help put that into our minds, like, oh, I need this, I want to play and eat, drink more water. I think having that allows and hearing that message constantly, but not in like a forceful way. Even having little post pictures of that typical meal plan, like what, hey, this is what your place to look like every day when you eat lunch around the cafeteria can really help people start eating more healthy. Like, oh, do I have this today? No, I don't. I can go ahead and grab it if it's available. I think that's something that can really promote eating healthy and then anything else, because at the end of the day, if it's not available for us on a daily basis, we're gonna slowly forget about it. So I think putting up pictures or talking about it once a month is, hey, bro, eat healthy, drink a lot of water. So I know our school, we have a lot of water available. We have water fountains, we have bottled waters, like it's very available to just stay hydrated, and they promote staying hydrated, especially in this heat. And even during athletic season, our coaches say, make sure you eat healthy, eat this after practice, eat this before practice. They're really promoting eating healthy a lot at my school.
Okay. Riley?
Much like Andrew said, I think that healthy eating and drinking, that kind of thing, is usually encouraged by like coaches or people that are counting on your performance, like coaches. But I feel like he said, sometimes it's not as like forcefully addressed as just like, hey, you need to drink water, and then that's the kind of end of the conversation. And most people would just let it go right over their head or blow it off. But additionally to coaches having people come in, I think that's sort of something that needs to be addressed by like athletic directors, that kind of thing, because that's a good way to reach a large amount of kids in a short amount of time. So even for the younger kids, doing it during their PE class, or if they have a health class, doing it then. Just having something to where it's actually part of the lesson. It doesn't have to be a super boring thing or something to where they have to do a worksheet or take notes, something fun and engaging that makes them want to learn about nutrition and want to learn about what they should eat, because in reality, that's the stuff that they're going to remember. And especially on a high school level, we have clubs that do community service, that kind of thing, but I feel like there's nothing that in my school at least that specifically addresses health. And I think that it's important that someone be able to go into the classrooms and give a brief talk about that kind of thing, because I feel like when we get to this age, a lot of teenagers just feel like they know everything and they don't need to eat healthy because they come to a certain age, but in reality it's when it's the most important, and they just probably don't even realize.
Okay. All right. Well, we thank each and every one of you for your great input. Do we have any questions in the chat?
Sandy, we do. This is for all of our kiddos. The question that came up was, do you think there are enough opportunities for teens who do not participate in athletics or a sport to be physically active or to get out in nature? And if so, what are some of the examples that you can think of?
Who would like to address that?
I can address it.
Okay.
I know from my school, they know that playing a sport and being a part of a team isn't for everyone. So they have these little clubs started by kids or coaches that's very relaxed and low key, that they're trying to just keep kids as active as possible. There's a running club. You just run a mile every day, and they try to keep it active. And it's really fun because it's not, you don't have that same pressure being on a sports team. You're still very active. You're still pushing your body, but there's not that pressure that you have to be athletic or you have to be part of this team. Like, they offer so many different ways. I know my friend last year, he did recreational golf, for example. He was outside every day just playing golf. And he's not on a golf team, but he's out there playing. So Kincaid offers that a lot throughout its community.
Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, I can comment. So in my school, we like have a gym that's free of use for any of the students. So even if you don't do a sport, you're always available to come in the morning or stay in the afternoon to work out. And then we also have a lot of nature on our campus, which I think is like more important than a lot of people realize, because you're seeing nature, which boosts like your happiness and your overall mood. So I think that having plenty of nature for students to walk around and see is really important.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Alice, do we have another question?
I'm looking through to see if there's any others that I might have missed. This was an excellent group, guys. Y'all had some excellent insight.
Or if anyone does have a question or a comment, just unmute and ask. I guess.
I have a question.
Okay.
Before I do a quick question, I just want to share with everyone that participated in this panel that I am highly impressed by your responses, and I am truly I just feel extremely grateful that I stayed for this panel and was able to see you participate, see you lead with your responses and your engagement. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And the question for me is, do you feel like you have enough trusted adults in your schools or in your school setting to be able to deal with a lot of the challenges that we already talked about?
I feel like in my school, there's a lot of people that I could probably turn to in addressing these issues. We have, I think there's 3 vice principals on staff, our principal, and then we also additionally have 4 counselors and multiple other people in both of those offices that I could definitely turn to and address these issues. And I know that taking things to them in the past, they have actually taken them into consideration because of the leadership positions I hold and the knowledge that they know that I've seen and had. So I know in that situation that they would be able to point me in the right direction.
Right.
We have another question that has come up. Did anybody else want to respond to that beforehand? To Gabby's. Okay. If not, the next question we have is the fact that several of you have mentioned healthy eating and the value and the importance of eating. And most of us know that it's really important to eat healthy, but for whatever reasons, we don't. And especially some of maybe peers and students. So we know it's about forming habits, right? So are there any tips or suggestions that you could share that would help either peers or just help all of us as we're working with youth think about what tips we could give regarding forming healthy eating habits?
For me, like something that I've learned kind of helps improve my habits is listening to music while I exercise, because it kind of like makes the exercising more enjoyable. And also afterward, I notice that my mood improves whenever I've exercised that day. And then bringing a water bottle to school or work also is a habit that I try to have, because you like always have hydration there with you and you don't have to wait until lunch or walk out of the classroom. And then I would say like if you want to like change the habits in your life, just to start smaller and then kind of build on those habits. Like instead of trying to work out every day and like an hour every day, you could just start by doing like half an hour every other day and then grow from there.
Right, kind of go for that. Just working out during the day has really helped me a lot to stay healthy, also boost my morale. But also think when it comes to eating healthy, I think I had to start being disciplined with myself. And like, hey, I know there's a cookie there, but I can't eat it. It's not really the best thing right now. I may go eat an apple. Kind of just have a lot of self-discipline and make myself eat healthy things. In the moment, it wouldn't seem nice, but I know my body thanks me for it. And to me, I know my body thanks me for it in the long run. Okay, thinking I'm gonna cook it, apples now I feel better. Won't feel as sluggish, I won't feel as sleepy, but because I ate the apple, I feel more energetic and full. I just feel better. So I think it takes a lot of self-discipline to start eating healthy, but once you do it, it's gonna pay off.
So Andrew, one tip that you would give those that are trying to fight between the cookie and the apple, what's one thing you would tell them to do?
One thing I'll tell them to do, I think, is make it harder for you to grab that cookie and make it easier for you to grab the apple. If that makes sense. If you have, let's say, a bowl of ice cream and a refrigerator outside, you will have to actually actively get up and walk outside and then just go to the kitchen. I think it's hard to break a bad habit. You can't break it instantly. But if you make it more difficult to go back to that bad habit, that can help destroy a bit. If you have an apple downstairs in the kitchen and then a ice cream outside, you're most likely go to the apple because it's right there. So make it easier for you to eat healthy things and make it harder for you to eat non-healthy things. That's gonna start to break that habit slowly, but over time, in your nature, just go grab the apple instead of the ice cream. The ice cream wouldn't be a thought after a while. That's the same thing with me. I used to eat a lot of junk food, a lot of chips until I started taking a break from that and hiding the chips somewhere, but having like a pineapple or apple easily available for me. So over time, I started grabbing the apple a lot more than the chips. Then I started slowly forgetting that I had chips at home and start eating a lot more healthier. That's kind of what I did to help me start eating healthier.
That's a great suggestion. Riley?
Thank you.
Can I just piggyback kind of off of what Andrew was talking about with like the apple versus whatever? This is something that I try to do with myself because I'm an active athlete, is I kind of try to set small goals for myself. And I feel like that is important to know how to do. So what I mean by that is saying, okay, I'm only going to have one thing that I would consider like sweet per day. And then maybe you'll get to where, oh, I don't even need one. Maybe I'll have it only twice a week or once a week, or to where you're only eating it on occasion and not actually choosing that during every meal, that kind of thing. So setting those small goals for yourself will make it easier to try to cut it out of your life, if that is something that's really hurting your physical health.
One thing that we believe in the Oliver Foundation, we try to pass on to our team board is, of course, we want you to eat healthy and, pick the right foods, but also you have to remember that everything is okay in moderation. If you deprive yourself of everything, then you're going to find yourself maybe one day binging on that and you'll lose all your healthy habits. So it's, it's like, Riley said, small steps make big changes. So, just remember that. How many of y'all are involved in grocery shopping with your parents, or do you give them a list of things that you want to eat or you want to have for snacks? Andrew? Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just giving a thumbs up that yes, I do help with that.
Okay. Andrew, you were going to answer?
Oh, it's like Riley, I was saying, yes, ma'am, I do kind of help, but I do ask for mom to grab some fruit, or make a list of fruit, or make a list of drinks that I need, like water or Gatorades and stuff for myself for groceries.
Okay, Emma?
Yes, so that's one thing that we do in my family is we I go shopping with my mom and learn kind of how to meal plan, the cost aspect of all of that, consumer decision making. So being involved in that definitely helps get me prepared for how to make healthy decisions and meal plan on my own after I graduate.
That's great. Sophia?
Yeah, I was just raising my hand as well to say that I also help, like my mom gives me the option to let her know if I want anything specifically, but like seeing what my family brings in every grocery shopping day is just like helping me learn like what I need every week to meal plan when I get older.
Okay. All right, Alice, any other questions?
I do not see any others that have come in, but these have been some excellent questions and some fantastic responses from our youth panel. These students are really amazing, and thank y'all so much. Anyone else have questions or comments?
No.
No, I think Sandy,
Yeah.
I think you can close us out.
Thank all of y'all for participating. You did a great job. You know that you're the face of the future as far as nutrition and physical activity are concerned. And I know the youth in my group, you know, their goal is to help mentor other children, teach them healthy habits, do their community service, just like you girls do also. And I think y'all are just really great young adults, and you're going to go into great regular adults in your healthy choices. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. All four of you for your time. We appreciate you. Okay, we are running a little ahead of schedule, and that's good. So if everyone is okay, I'm going to go ahead and just pause for a second, see if we have any additional questions. And if not, let me pause and see. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat either. Okay, let me go ahead and do a quick wrap up then, if we will. Michelle, if we can go to the next slide. So real quickly, just before I do a wrap up, I did want to call everyone's attention to a couple of slides here to remind everyone we've got a wealth of resources. You can certainly follow Action for Healthy Kids on social media here. And then the next slide. Throughout the day today, you may have heard us talking about shacks, and I know somewhere in the conversation we even had a couple of people, you know, shack, how's that spelled, etc. The School Health Advisory Council is we have the Texas Shack Network, which is a group that we have been kind of building. We're at, I think somewhere around 300, maybe a little over of Shack members. And so it's not a busy sort of, you know, you're not going to be getting emails all the time. It's more about helping point you in the direction of resources that you may be looking for. It really is, we kind of, it's more of a repository of resources related to school health advisory councils. And so we highly encourage you, if you're not already a member of the Texas Shack Network, to go follow the information here and sign up for it. You see that you have access to quite a few resources. And then earlier I had mentioned some of the previous recordings that we have done available on the Healthy Kids, Healthy Families channel. There you have the YouTube address. That's where we've got a whole variety of past presentations we have done, as well, not only from us, but from partner organizations as well, that could serve as good resources for you. Next slide.
Will this program be, will this program be recorded on that channel?
Yes.
Yes. Yes,
Wonderful.
it will be available there, posted, as well as the recording will also be sent out to everyone who, the link for the recording will be sent out to everyone who registered for our summit. And so before I close for the day, I did want to just quickly do a little recap for everyone. You know, I think if you hope that, and thanks to those of you who have stuck with us for the afternoon. I know it's been a long day, but I certainly hope that you have felt that you're walking away from today's session with some really great kind of gems or jewels in your pocket, some tools that you could move forward with. Kind of just what I took away from some of the discussions that we had today. I loved from the get-go that we started referring to kind of interrupted learning and versus, you know, loss of learning that we continuously hear. I really kind of like that as maybe a new and different way of looking at things when it comes to our students' education. And I think that also something that really came out of some of the earlier conversations in some of the panels was that we really need to look at intentional messaging when it comes to everything from mental health to the purpose of school health advisory councils, you know, ensuring that we are adopting and having, you know, adapting such that we have very pronounced action items so that as we're all walking away from a meeting where, you know, a plan was going to be, you know, put in place or discussions occurred, that everybody's walking away with feeling that they've got a purpose or a directive in mind. I think that's really important. I loved also all of the suggestions that were given by a number of our panelists regarding the messaging regarding Wellness Wednesdays or trying to find ways to embed those healthful tips. Because I think, again, that kind of goes back to being very purposeful in how we get our messaging out across the school systems and across the communities as well. One big key that I think came across was that shacks, as I noted earlier about this shack network and our website, school health advisory councils or shacks are really a powerful voice for parents and for community groups. And so shacks, it seems in some ways and in some areas of the state, are really morphing to being innovative and finding ways to get more parental involvement or to get the word out. I loved hearing about, you know, hosting a shack. I think it was Amanda who said their group is hosting, you know, shack tailgate parties and, you know, events where they're really trying to get those targeted messages to the people. And so whether that is a parent, a community member, a staff member, so that everybody's on the same page about what the school and the school environment can look like. And so I thought that was a really great point that came across today. Likewise, pervasive in today's discussions was the topic of mental health. And I think, again, I'm preaching to the choir, but we certainly know that mental health is a priority issue for students, for staff, for family members. And so I think it's going to continue to be a topic that remains on the forefront of so much of our programming and educational needs, perhaps. But I was also very encouraged to hear from not only our mental health panel that had a rich discussion regarding the resources, but also from, you know, the physical activity panel and even our youth voice that just completed a few minutes ago, talking about the fact that physical activity and physical education is so intertwined with mental health. And so getting out in nature, supporting and encouraging more of the nature, being outside in your environment, taking a walk, you know, so really, I think there's value in us working hard to have mental health really become embedded and a part of everything that we do when it comes to physical activity, because it's certainly twofold the benefits or threefold the benefits that we get from being physically active. And then lastly, but not lastly, I was incredibly encouraged by the students that we had today. Students can be change agents. They are change agents. They are the leaders. And the peer-to-peer education, especially related to healthful messaging, was really encouraging to hear. It's exciting to hear the work that these youth who served on our panel are already, you know, their everyday personal habits, but also the efforts that they're making to be involved with their school environment and their community environment as a whole. And it was wonderful to hear their suggestions for, you know, setting small goals and, you know, working hard to make healthful choices the easier choices, that they can easily reach for that apple, making it more difficult to go for those unhealthful choices, maybe by not even having those unhealthy chips available in the home or, you know, easily accessible. And so I personally think it was a great session today. I really thank everyone who stuck with us. I want to close out by sharing that tomorrow we will start off at 8:45. So around 8:30, we will come on and make sure that all of the mics and everything are up and working. But about 8:45, I'll do a quick recap and then lay the groundwork for tomorrow's sessions. Tomorrow we've got some more amazing panels. We're going to have the PTA, Texas PTA, hosting a session on the family and parent engagement component. Then we're going to hear from some school, the nutrition side of things, talking about how we can promote more school meals. Will again be met with Chad and another Catch Global Foundation little activity break. I think it was fun learning about the steps that we take every day, kind of guessing how many steps we're taking to get to the fridge or to the, you know, copier or whatever. And then we will close out tomorrow's session with a where do we go from here discussion. And that's going to involve all of our moderators throughout the sessions from both days who will come together to kind of talk about, you know, some looking forward and have a rich discussion. So I am very thankful for your participation today. I hope that you will be able to join us tomorrow. One last note, if today was the only day that you are available to join us, in the chat, Michelle had placed an evaluation. It was a QR code as well as a link. If you're not able to join tomorrow and you're going to be leaving us today, please respond to the evaluation for today. If, however, you are planning to join us tomorrow and you'll be participating in tomorrow's sessions, please wait and complete that survey tomorrow. Okay, so this is just for those who are not going to be joining us tomorrow. please go ahead and complete that evaluation feedback form today. Otherwise, I hope that you have enjoyed getting a couple of minutes back on your afternoon today, and we look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Michelle, did you have some other comments?
Thank you all for coming. I was just really excited by all of the sessions and very happy to have our youth share so much good information and work that you're doing. So thank you all, and look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow.
We'll see everyone tomorrow morning. Thank y'all.
Take care.